you don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion new single, my hater, the big better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million, the devil, that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Deku Enters Total Drama Island. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Firearm 78910 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Last time on Total Drama Island, the campers were supposed to face their greatest fears, but then it evolved into a therapy session after Izuku spilled his guts. Jesus tap dancing, Christ almighty, how is he not dead? Either who to not put more stress on the guy. I made it from an elimination to a reward challenge, which was a good call on my part, Chris said as flashbacks of the last episode are shown. Chris cringed at this. Not his best moment. Anywho, after that major fuck up, we received a surprise visit from Izuku's mother of all people and a cute little girl named Eri, and let me tell you, Inko is thick. Next up, the Izuwacha ship has been built but hasn't set sailed yet. Now that we're back to somewhat normal, let's bring up the next challenge on, Chris said as he's about to do the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. We see both teams standing near the lake. As Chris walked up to the team with Inko, Eri and 2 other people by Chris's side. Base, Gophers, before I give your next challenge, I have announcements to give to you all. First, a therapist will be here to tend to your mental health. This is Matthew Lawson. Oh, don't mistake this as me carrying the last thing we need is a dead camper, Chris said as he introduced Matthew. Matthew is a tall old man with graying hair, blue eye, and wrinkles. He's wearing a black suit, pants, tie and shoes. He also has a red suitcase. Hello everyone, I'm here to assure your mental health is stable. Trust me, you'll need it after this, Matthew said. Okay, next to me is the doc of the island, Dr. Mijutin, Chris said as he introduced the doctor of the island. Mi is a tall, curvy woman dressed in a pink blouse, a black pencil skirt, black pantyhose, a pair of glasses on her face, and a doctor robe. She also has black hair with hazel eyes. I am Dr. Jutin. I am here to patch you lot up, and if I hello nurse comment from either gender, I will kick your ass, oath be damned. Got it, Mi said as the campers nodded. Confessional booth. Beep. To think I would have to treat a bunch of hormonal late teens and 2 teens, with the latter 2 being illegal heroes in training. Og Lawson has his work cut out for him, Mi said, feeling sorry for Matthew. I have my work cut out for since I'm dealing with illegal hero students. It will take some time, but my main goal is help Izuku heal. Considering well what happened last episode, he needs it, Matthew said. Okay, so Owen made some new rules that make sure that the Izuwacha has to be from a real confession and not forced because of what happened yesterday, Jeff said. I'm glad to see Izuku is doing well. I hope he'll come through this, DJ said, worried about Izuku. Beep. Inko glared at her, as did Ere, though it looked more cute than angry. Where in 9 hells did my boss find these guys? Chris thought. Chris shakes his head as he gives today's challenge. Okay then, today's challenge is a true and classic summer camp experience. A canoe trip, Chris said. Huh, a simple challenge today? Weird, Ochako said. Wait for it, Ochako-chan, Izuku said, knowing Chris. You'll be paddling your canoes to Bony Island. When you get there, you must portage your canoes to the other side of the island, which is about a 2-hour hike through dense jungle, Chris said as Jeff got confused with the word portage. Chris gave Jeff a flat look as he gives a pair of headphones to Eri. Dude, are you fucking serious? It means walk with your fucking canoe, Chris said as Jeff got it. Oh thanks brah, Jeff said as Bridget facepalmed. Okay then, once you get to the other side, you'll build a rescue fire judged by me. First team to reach the beach with the canoes wins invincibility, Chris said as the campers started to rush to the canoes. Oh, just one more thing, legend has it that if you take something from Bony Island, you'll be cursed forever, Chris said as the other campers got nervous, except for Owen as he laughed it off. Confessional booth. Beep. Takoyami-san, I'm only going to say this once. I am not going to curse my team just to get you a souvenir from Bony Island. You want one, get it yourself, Izuku said. I'm pretty sure Izuku may have already told you this, Takoyami, but I am not getting you anything from Bony Island, Ochako said with her arms crossed. As the other camper went to the canoes, Chris heard the toilets flush to reveal Beth. What did I miss? Beth asked. Canoes, Chris said as he jabbed his thumb at where the other campers are at. Why do I get the feeling that it's going to end badly? Inko said as Matthew and me nod at this. Indeed, well, let's wait for them, Matthew said as me nods. Confessional booth. Beep. I would have this chance to charm Gwen, but she's at the other team. Maybe I can charm Katie to make Gwen jealous. Nah, that won't work, Cody said. Cody sighs at and thinks for a second. I'll have to commit the ultimate bro move. Gwen won't like me, but I'll make sure she's happy, Cody said with a nod. Beep. Cody decided to paddle with Katie in hopes that Gwen would get jealous. But before that he gave some info to Trent that would make Gwen like him. Izzy mentioned that she was 870th part Cherokee and Lashana hopes that they take her. Meanwhile, Jeff was trying to call out to Bridget. Hey Eva, partner up with me, Bridget asked as Eva nods. Confessional booth. Beep. I thought Bridget and I were close, but after the whole tent thing I really don't blame her, Jeff sadly said. Beep. Hey Jeff, need a partner? DJ asked as Jeff joins him. Bridget and Eva were putting on their life jackets as Heather and Owen partnered up. Izuku and Ochako got on a canoe as well. Hey Izuku, are you okay about what happened last week? Ochako asked. It still hurts, but with you by my side, I think I might heal, you know, Izuku said as he put on his life jacket. I see, to change the topic, how about after the competition ends we go on a real date? Ochako said. I like that. I also need to change my hero name, Izuku said. What, why? I thought. Ochako said as Izuku interrupted her. I know you changed the meaning, but after Phobia Factor the old version came rushing back, Izuku said. Oh then, why not change it to Dekaru? I'm the only reason I call you Deku in the first place is because that's how we say it in my, Ochako said. I'll think about it, Ochako, but I think I might do that when we get back, Izuku said as Ochako nods. As Izuku and Ochako got on their canoe, DJ kicked the canoe and asked if they fall over a lot. Nah dude, you're thinking kayaks, but since we're in a lake I doubt we'll hit rough water, Jeff said, making DJ scared. Water can get rough? DJ asked. Yeah, but that's mostly river rapids. The only way lake water can get rough is if a storm was on top of us, Jeff said as DJ calmed down. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, real talk, when I was 8 my brothers dared me to jump off the high dive board of the pool. I wasn't going to let them call me fucking chicken. I jumped and landed on my ass, DJ said as he explained his past. DJ crossed his arms as he continued. You may be thinking that's better than a fucking belly flop, right? Well, you're fucking wrong. My trunks went so far up my ass I had to go to the hospital to get them removed. Hell, they invented a new phrase for what I did, a wedgie flop, DJ said as he frowned but then smiled. Yes, that made me afraid of water for a bit, but my brothers, they got grounded for a year for telling me to jump, DJ said. Beep. As everyone was getting their canoes into the lake, Chris is on the shore with revolver in hand. On your marks, get set, paddle, Chris said as he fires the gun and the campers paddle away. As the campers paddle away, an eagle drops dead on Chris's feet. That's gonna lead into angry emails, Chris said. What did we sign up for? Inko, Matthew and me said at the same time. A Chris shot a birdie down, Eri said as she looks at the bird, then at Izuku and Ochako paddling away with the campers. While the campers were paddling away, Izzy was telling Lashana about how Bushman taught her how to catch and cook crocodile and koala. Hold up, isn't hunting koalas illegal? Lashana asked. Oh, the quirkless ones, yeah they are, but it's the quirked ones we had to watch out for, Izzy said. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, that's fair, quirked animals are a lot tougher than the regular kind, Lashana said. Jeff and DJ were paddling along when Jeff started talking about something he made in arts and crafts. "Please, in the name of God and the glowing baby, you didn't give it to her," DJ said. "I didn't. After the tent thing, I wanted one of the guys to see if it was okay to give it to her," Jeff said as he gave the thing he made to DJ. The thing he made was a heart-shaped photo frame with a badly made photo of Jeff and Bridget. DJ took one look at the photo and only one word came to mind. "Bruh," DJ said as he gave Jeff a flat look. Bad dude?" Jeff asked. "Not gonna lie, I think we need a new fucking word to tell how bad it was," DJ said. "Fuck. What do I do now, DJ?" Jeff asked. "Let her come to you and go from there. Also toss that thing to the bottom of the lake, alright?" DJ said as Jeff did just that. With Izuku and Ochako. Izuku and Ochako were talking about their new relationship and how they would go about it. Izuku, I know that we're boyfriend and girlfriend, but I never had one before," Ochako said with a blush. "I know, but I kind of wanted to confess when I was ready. I've always liked you, Ochako. I was just scared that you would reject me," Izuku said. "I would never do that, Izuku. I will always be by your side," Ochako said with a small smile. "Thank you, Chako-chan," Izuku said with a smile as well as crying. Deku-kun, should I worry about you overflowing the lake?" Ochako said with a chuckle. With Chris and the others. Dude, I thought there was more lakeside beach than this," Chris as he see the lake getting more water. "You sure you don't have an infinite tier quirk, Inko?" Daniel said as Inko shakes her head. With the cinnamon rolls. Izuku was drying his tears as Ochako laughed. "Thanks, Chako, I knee," Izuku started to as he stopped. Ochako noticed that then she noticed the fog and soon the two's combat instincts kicked in. Then they saw the rock formation that resembles a skull. "Izuku it that?" Ochako said. "Yeah, it is Ochako. Bony Island," Izuku said as he glared at the stone skull and the other campers got their canoes on shore. Sometime later. We find both teams running along Bony Island. As they ran around, they saw a lot of skulls and spikes. They kept seeing this until they spotted something else. It was a large animal with thick brown fur, black beady eyes, tusks, and flat tails. "Wait, are those giant beavers?" Ochako asked as she and the rest of the group ran for their lives. Confessional booth. Beep. A remnant of the Paleocene period, the woolly beaver, a day-active rodent native to Bony Island. "Oh, they're also carnivores," Chris said with a serious face. This, however, lasted a few seconds before he was laughing his ass off. "Nah, I'm joking. One of the beaver bastards had a quirk called Great Predator, and those are its descendants. It also not the only quirked animal on Bony Island," Chris said with a grin. Beep. As the campers were running away from the woolly beavers, they stopped at a mountainside where the beavers stopped their chase. "Hey, they're leaving. Awesome," Trent said, happy that the beavers are gone. Trent, isn't weird that the beavers left as we reached that mountain?" Izuku asked. Yay, oh shit," Trent said as he looked up. The rest of them did as Trent and saw what he saw. "Are those pterodactyl Jess?" Ochako shouted as the jessadactyls flew towards them, causing them to run. "Why are they pterodactyls, Jess? Jess were already terrifying as is," Heather said as they ran. Confessional booth. Beep. These beasties are called Stymphalian Canadian geese, and like the woolly beavers they came to be due to a normal Canadian goose having a quirk, and these bad boy are its descendants, Chris said with a grin. Beep. As the gophers ran away from the Stymphalian Canadian geese, they saw a crossroads. "Izuku left or right?" Ochako shouted. "We go left, guys," Izuku said as a loaf of bread flew past him, distracing the Stymphalian Canadian geese. "You owe me one, Izuku," Cody shouted as his team took the right path. With the gophers. Gwen and Trent were talking while Izuku and the others calmed down. "Is everyone alright?" Izuku asked. "Yeah, we're okay, little dude," Owen said. "Despite what just happened, we're fine," Heather said as everyone nods. "Okay, good, now we hold up. Quicksand," Izuku shouted as they said quicksand. "Few good thing you found it, right, Deku-kun?" Ochako said as Izuku nods. "Yeah, that's good and all, but we have a race to win," Gwen said. "Gwen's right, dude, we got a jet," Trent said as they went back to the race. With the base. As the killer base were headed their way, Jeff fell down. "Oh, fuck my leg," Jeff shouted. "Jeff!" Bridget shouted as she rushed towards Jeff's side. "Dudes, you got to leave me behind," Jeff said. "No way. Weren't leaving anyone behind, not on my watch," DJ said. "Also, the last time we did that we lost," Ezekiel said, making Katie sad. Cody of all people got into action. "Hold on, Jeff," Cody said as he took out a first aid kit out of his pants and gave it to Bridget. "Thanks, Cody, you're a lifesaver," Bridget said. Confessional booth. Beep. Dude, Cody is a fucking lifesaver also for the fact that he gave the first aid kit to Bridget, Jeff said with a grin. "Damn, I'm being a total bro today," Cody said with a grin on his face. "Awa, Cody is so sweet," Katie said with a smile. Quick question, how did you fit a first aid kit in your pants?" DJ asked as Bridget tended to Jeff. "Oh, these pants, I made them with my quirk. It has a pocket dimension filled with all sorts of stuff," Cody said. Sometime later. We see the thing that was hurting Jeff. It was a splinter. As the camera zooms out, it is revealed to be the smallest splinter ever. DJ along with Harold were carrying Jeff as if his leg was shattered. We then see that the screaming gophers are setting up their fire. But despite this, the killer base are ahead since Duncan was smart enough to bring a lighter. Why didn't we think of that also? Is it against the rules?" Izuku asked. With Chris. "Hey, there's no rule of bringing them. Edge killer base," Chris said. With the campers. As the gophers are collecting more wood, Beth spots something on the ground. It was a tiki idol. Not knowing about Chris's warning, she picks it up and takes it with her. The base, on the other hand, had a stroke of bad luck when Harold had the not-so-bright idea of using his team's oars as fuel for the fire. "Harold, what the fuck were you thinking, man?" Jeff shouted. "At least the fire is bigger, I think. I might have spare oars somewhere," Cody said as he looked. With the gophers, Izzy came back with some sort of ball. Izzy, what is that?" Izuku asked. "Oh, it's a handmade fire starter made with tree sap and some other stuff. All I can say is that it will go boom," Izzy said as the other gophers backed off. Izzy threw the thing into the fire, and like Izzy said, it made a big boom. The explosion was so big it almost reached Chris's helicopter. "Damn, man, well, then we have our winner for the fire building portion of the challenge. Screaming gophers," Chris said as he cheered. "Izzy-san, where did you learn to make that?" Izuku asked. "Oh, from the RCMP. I kinda of went AWOL after blowing up the kitchen by accident," Izzy said with a grin. "Are they still after you, Izzy?" Ochako asked. "Yup, they're still after my ass," Izzy said as she giggled. After Chris announced the winner, the gophers and base came back to their canoes. The base were complaining to Harold about burning their oars, and Izzy gave the base an idea on how to get back. An enraged Lashana cuts her off for assisting the opposing team. But it was too late as the idea stuck. Bridget suggested DJ to do it. Jeff, knowing of DJ's hydrophobia, tried to stop him. But then DJ said, "I'll do it, guys," DJ said. Confessional booth. Beep. It was all up to me. I needed to swim like a killer base should, and no wedgie flop is gonna stand in my way, DJ said. Beep. With his teammates cheering him on, DJ outswims every gopher canoe and finishes with a wipeout at home base, giving the killer base the victory and invincibility. Lashana told Izzy since it was her idea, she's going home and chased her off with oar in hand. Campfire ceremony. At the campfire ceremony, everyone were glaring at Izzy. Izzy, on the other hand, wasn't nervous. "Okay, we all know how this works. I call out your name, you get to stay," Chris said as everyone nodded. "Okay then, Izuku. Ochako. Gwen. Trent. Heather. Beth. Lashana. The bottom two are Lindsay, who was nervous, and Izzy, who was confident. The last marshmallow goes to," Chris started to say. However, before the call can be made, the RCMP abruptly make an appearance from a helicopter, shining their spotlight down on Izzy. "Izzy, we know you're here," the man in the helicopter said. Lashana having to hear everything about Izzy today. "Hold the F up, so everything you said is true?" Lashana asked. "Oh no, just the part about the RCMP. Well, I got to go see ya," Izzy said. See you, Izzy, Izuku nervously said. Oh yeah, confess to Ochako, we'll need confirmation for the Izuacha ship, Izzy said, preparing to run. The two cinnamon rolls blushed at Izzy's words. Welp, I'm done here. You'll never take me alive, Izzy said as she ran off. With that, she runs off into the distance, laughing maniacally while everyone else looks on in utter shock or amusement. Chris is the only one apparently nonchalant about the situation and ends the ceremony then and there. Well, that happened, Ochako said. Yeah, it did still, that was some bad luck, Izuku said as the Gophers went back to their room. Well damn, Lashana said. As this happens, Daniel shivers. The hell this doesn't, unless no way none of them would be that stupid, right? Daniel said as he went to bed as well. Later that night, Beth is then seen reading by herself, with her Tiki doll secured next to her. Ominous lightning strikes as camera pans to the cursed idol, and several cameras zoom out in a split second to reveal the entirety of Camp Wawanakwa. Last time on Total Drama Island, both teams set out on a canoe trip to the deadly Bony Island. Cody was going to enact a jealously tight plan to be Gwen, but decided to be the ultimate bro and helped her be with the guy she wanted to be, Trent. What a bro, my dude, what a bro. Our cinnamon rolls decides to take it slow. Come on you two, just confess already, preferably after the split, Chris said as scenes of said things were shown. Ah, Chris, the episode? Daniel asked. Wah? Oh right, the episode. Any who after running away from giant man eating beavers and roided up geese, there were winners and there were losers, also known as the Gophers. The last marshmallow was set to either go to Lindsay or Izzy, but the RCMP forced Izzy to hightail it out of there, Chris said as it shows the scene of Izzy running away from the RCMP. Chris laughed a bit before talking again. Man, I knew the girl was nuts, but I didn't know she was totally insane. However, one Gopher may insert has done something even more insane, which was bring a creepy tiki, voodoo thingy from Bony Island. Will Beth regret bringing that souvenir? Can my teeth be possibly get any white? And finally, when will Izuku and Ochako get together? Find out here on, Chris said as he says the final part of the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. It was morning where the sun began to rise and birds were about to sing and Bunny was hopping around until it was interrupted by Chris, who was flying around in a helicopter while wearing a Rebel Alliance uniform. Duncan woke up fearing for his life, believing the police were coming after him. DJ and Jeff, on the other hand, just looked at him as he hid under the bed. Lashana, on the other hand, hit her head on the bunk. Ooh, oh, okay, the dude is really starting to get on my last nerves, Lashana said as she gets out of bed. Heather gets up as well as Ochako leaves for the bathroom. Whatever, he just loves ruining our mornings. Beth, Lindsay, go warm up the shower for me and don't forget, Heather said. I know, not too hot this time, Beth said as she gets up. A while later, we soon see the girls save Ochako standing in line for the bathrooms. Ugh, why didn't we follow Ochako's lead? Bridget said as she held it in. I know, right? Katie said. How lone is Queenie going to be in there? I got urgent business here, Lashana asked. Beth said it would still be a while as Lindsay nodded. F that I'm going lumberjack style, Gwen said as she left. Soon the announcement system sounded. I hope you're ready for the most challenging challenge yet, breakfast in 3 minutes at the campfire site. Heather soon called out saying she needed help lotion her back and that it was peeling. Beth sighed as she went in to help Heather. Campfire site. We find the campers with Chris with Inko and Ere by his side. Are you ready today's Extreme Max Impact Challenge? Chris said. We are ready, Owen said as Lashana shakes her head. What's the challenge, Mr. Chris? Eri asked. I'll tell them after they had breakfast, Chris said as he picked up a can of beans and tossed it at the campers. It was about to hit Gwen's face, but Trent caught it, earning a smile from the goth beauty. Chris explained that this was breakfast. Heather, however, frowned. No, breakfast is crepes, croissants, and even chef's shitey burnt eggs and ham, Heather said. Beans, they're good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you, Owen said before he was hit in the head by a can of beans and falls down. Owen, you all right? Izuku asked as Owen gives a thumbs up. Today's challenge is about survival. We're going hunting, Churs said as he shows a paintball gun. Now that's more like it, Duncan said, excited at the prospect of using a gun. Harold points out the obvious as Chris shoots him. Bridget then asked if that meant that they weren't killing anything. Negatory Bridget, no blood, guts, or real guns will be shown here, Chris said. Is it because you killed that birdie last week? Ire innocently asked. Not gonna lie, it was. I had to make a new email for that, not to mention my social media blew up. Did you know PETA is still a thing? Chris said. Chris, the challenge? Ochako asked. Oh right. This will be the first ever paintball deer hunt. I'll announce the teams when we get to the woods, so finish brekkie, Chris said as a loud burp was heard. The burp came from Owen, who was surrounded by cans of beans. Got any more? Owen asked. I think Mr. Owen had too much, right, Inko ba? Iri asked as Inko nodded. Woods. Upon reaching the woods, we see Chris with a gun rack filled with paintball guns and chest. All right then, I will now explain the breakdowns. The killer base hunters are Bridget, Duncan, Jeff, and Ezekiel, locked and loaded with base blue paint, Chris said as he passes the guns to said members. Oh yes, Duncan said, excited that he is a hunter. The Screaming Gopher hunters who are using orange paint are Owen, Beth, Lindsay, Lashana, and Ochako, Chris said as he passes the guns to said people while Owen cheers. All right then, the hunters will also get these stylish camo caps and wicked goggles, while the rest of you are deers, Chris said. I'm a deer? Izuku asked. Yup, here are your antlers, red noses and little white tails. Oh, and if you take them off, your team is toast, Chris said as he puts on said parts on Izuku. Can I be a deer too? Iri said as she gives the puppy eyes. Chris thought about and dressed Iri up, and once he saw how cute she was. Okay, new rule, whichever team shoots Iri is disqualified and the other team wins, Chris said as Iri smiles. Both teams nodded as Chris gave the deers a 15-minute head start. With the killer base, the base deer are walking along the woods where Katie mentions on how they and the gophers have a head start. I don't know about y'all, but I'm out of here, DJ said as he prances to the deeper part of the woods. Cody simply said what was on their minds. What the F? Cody said. With the Screaming Gophers, we see the gophers walking along the woods as well. This may be the lamest thing I've ever done in my life, Gwen said as Trent nods. Well, I think we should stay together, Izuku said. Confessional booth. Beep. We see Cody in the confessional booth, while he is in a full body cast. I was so psyched to be a deer. I may be small, but I'm quick. I got a lot of practice from dodging spitballs in math class, Cody said. Chris, get Cody to a hospital already, Izuku said. Beep. Gwen and Trent were leaving when the former of the two saw that Heather was sitting on a stump. Are you coming? Gwen asked. No, I'm gonna wait for Lindsay and Beth and make them protect me for the whole game, Heather said. Gwen was about to say when Izuku interrupted her. Gwen, let's leave, and besides, it isn't against the rules anyway, Izuku said as he and the others leave Heather behind. Meanwhile, with the killer base hunters. The hunters of the killer base were excited to hunt down their fellow campers, except for one. Bridget. Jeff wanted to cheer her up and then remembers DJ's advice. He decides to speak to her, not to cheer her up, but to hype her up for the challenge. Hey Bridge, I want to say good luck for the challenge, and I'll make sure to lead Heather towards you, Jeff said as Bridget's eyes went wide. Hold up, Heather is a deer? Oh, it is on, Bridget said as gave a wicked grin. Ha, color me impressed party boy, Duncan said. Yeah, I knew she would jump to the chance of coating Heather in paint, Jeff said with a grin of his own. Nice, shame that Sit Girl got booted out. Would have loved to flirt with her, Duncan said. With the Screaming Gopher hunters. The Screaming Gopher, on the other hand, were ready as well, though Ochako had to stop Owen from dousing himself with urine and remind him that the deer are other campers. Start your paintballs, game on, Chris said over the intercom as the hunters went into the woods. After some time has passed, both Beth and Lindsay found Heather. At first Beth was confused, but Heather reminded them of the alliance they were in. Heather soon felt hungry. Lindsay, find me berries. Beth, go find me some chips that aren't barbecue flavored, all right, Heather ordered as the both of them did so. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, Heather can be such a bossy bitch, and we should be fine the other contestants also who doesn't like BBQ flavored chips, Beth said as she complained about Heather. Beth then becomes nervous. Heather won't see this, right? Beth asked. Beep. With the hunters. Owen was now hunting down while talking loudly. He soon finds DJ grazing the grass like a deer. Owen hides in the bushes. Okay, big guys, all you have to do is wait for the perfect chance to strike, Owen thought as he keeps an eye on DJ. Unfortunately for Owen, his breakfast betrays him. With Beth. Beth is hiding under a picnic table wanting to get to the pantry, but she had to wait for Chef to leave. Luckily for Beth, Chef comes out of the dining hall wanting to go for a swim. Unluckily for Beth, she hits her head on the table. Chef at first turns to see what's going on, but then turns back whistling a tune. Beth took this chance to go into the dining hall. With Owen. Somehow DJ didn't notice Owen in the bush as he was still talking. The hunter moves and aware of every proton in his environment, Owen said as he laid in the bush. At least until a rattlesnake spooked Owen, which spooked DJ into running away. It's on DJ, your ass is a hamburger, and I'm hot BBQ bitch, Owen said as he started to chase down DJ. Meanwhile, with Beth. Beth had managed to get a bag of chips out of the pantry and was about to leave but saw Chef coming back, but she manages to escape from the psycho chef. As she ran, she bumped into Izuku. Gah! Oh, Izuku, didn't see you there, Beth said. Oh, hey there, Beth. Are all right. Also, what's with the bag of chips? Izuku asked. Oh, right, Heather wanted chipa, so I got her some, Beth said as something fell out of her pocket. Izuku noticed it as well. Hey, Beth, where did you get this? Izuku asked as he had a bad feeling about it. Oh, from that creepy island last week, Beth said as she pockets the tiki and eats some chips. After Beth left, Izuku knew what was happening earlier in the challenge. Ochako had told him that she had a line of sight on Katie, but somehow Miss Lashana also said that she had a clean shot as well, but it some ricocheted into a yellow jacket nest and attacked the sister. God damn it, I need to tell the others, Izuku said as he ran off. Confessional booth. Beep. So I'm running for my life from some psycho chef when all of a sudden it hits me. I'm doing all of this for that beach Heather. I don't even like her, Beth said as she crossed her arms. Damn it, Beth, you've doomed us all. I have no choice but to kick you out, Izuku said. I think Izuku and Eri look so cute in those deer costumes, Inko said as she looks at the photo she took. Beep. With Owen and DJ. DJ was running away from Owen as he gave chase. You're my burger now, DJ, Owen said as he chases down DJ. When DJ reached a creek, DJ jumped out of the way as Owen fired a few shots. Owen as he tried to jump, he hits his balls with the rock. DJ jumped over. God damn, that fucking hurts, Owen said in a squeaky voice. With Izuku and Ochako. What the flying F is wrong with Beth? Ochako shouted. I know we should round up the other gophers and vote her off for not only our own safety, but for Beth's as well, Izuku said. All right then, I'll find the other hunters while you find the other deer. All right, Izuku, Ochako said as Izuku nods. Both illegal heroes in training went their separate ways in order to tell the others. With Beth. Beth was getting sick and tired of Heather bossing her around. She had risked her life to get Heather some chips, and Heather didn't want them because they were BBQ flavored. She then asked for some dill pickle flavored ones. Well, she had enough of Heather's bitching. No, Beth simply said as Heather looked at her. What did you say? Heather said as was getting mad. Cody, who was following Beth for some reason, decides to back away only for Beth to fire a single shot at him. But Cody dodged it and ran off with the bag of BBQ chips. After Beth said her piece and left, Duncan and Bridget shot Heather. With Izuku. Izuku was at the docks looking for any members of his team to tell them about Beth and her tiki idol. As he was looking for his teammates, he hears a familiar scream. Izuku looked up and saw that Owen had fell off the cliff, but thankfully landed on the safe zone. After rescuing Owen, dragging him to the shore, Izuku spoke to him. Owen, we need to talk, Izuku said. If it's about DJ yeeting me off the cliff, I ran out of ammo, Owen said. No, Owen, it's about Beth, Izuku said as he told Owen about what had happened. Dude, okay, you got my vote, Owen said. Hopefully Ochako can convince Heather, Izuku said. With Ochako. Ochako had told Heather about what Beth did, and to say Heather was pissed was an understatement. She took Lindsay's paintball gun and shot at random. That effing beach, Heather shouted as she kept firing. Then the killer base hunters appeared and opened fire. Heather then fired one more shot and a cry was heard. Itai, a small voice said. Ochako and the others recognized that sound and went pale. Okay, I'll admit I fucked up this time, Heather said, hoping that it wouldn't get any worse. But it did as the intercom sounded. Attention campers, the game is over, please report to the medical tent, Chris said. Sometime later, we find Chris and the others at the medical tent as he looked at the campers while Izuku and Ochako stood side by side with Beth, preventing from running away. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Stealing from chef, eating chips in the woods, getting mauled by bears, and worst of all getting poor Eri dirty with paint, Chris said as Eri walked up in front of campers with a pout on her face and her favorite dress stained in paint. Orange paint to be exact. Do you know what I see here? I see a very undisciplined group. I see a disgraceful mess. I see a massive waste of paint product, and I have to say, that was fucking awesome. Wicked TV, guys, Chris said as he smiles. This made the campers smile a bit, but Eri still pouted. Don't worry, Eri, I'll get your clothes dry cleaned. As I stated before the challenge, anyone who hits Eri is disqualified, meaning by default the killer base wins, Chris said as the killer base cheered. Confessional booth. Beep. God fucking damn it, you two, I cannot believe you two screwed us over, Lashana said, angry at both Beth and Heather. Lashana sighs. At least that white skinny ass bitch admitted to have fucked up, Lashana said. Beep. Alright then, now before I give the big prizes first, I need to give the platinums. First off, the Gophers. I guess I can give it to Beth because she stole a bag of chips from Chef Hachette, Chris said as he gave the platinum gopher to Beth. Thanks, Chris, Beth said as she takes her trophy. As for the platinum base, that goes to Cody for obvious reasons, Chris said as the campers nodded. Chris, we need take Cody to the hospital, Me said. Alright, we will, but after we get a few confessions with the guy. Either way, the killer base will have a Hunter's Lodge shindig. Screaming Gophers, I'll be seeing you guys tonight again, Chris said. The killer base cheered as the Scream Gophers slumped. Sometime later near Bony Island, we find Izuku, Ochako, and Beth on a boat headed for Bony Island to put back the tiki idol that Beth found. Beth had originally thought about breaking the tiki and hiding it in the septic tank, but the illegal heroes in training stopped that. Now the three of them landed on Bony Island. Ochako, follow Beth while I prepare the canoe, Izuku said as Ochako nods. Ochako and Beth left to leave the tiki. After a few minutes they came back one tiki lighter and what felt like a weight lifted from their shoulders. They leave hoping that they would never come back. That night, campfire site. Everyone on the campfire site was angry. All of the rage was directed towards one person, Beth. Chris appears with a plate filled with 8 marshmallows. There are now only 8 marshmallows on this plate. When I call your name, come up and claim you marshmallow, Chris started to say until Beth interrupted him. The camper who doesn't receive a marshmallow must immediately return to the dock of shame, catch the boat of losers and leave. Can't we just get this fucking shit over with? Gwen said. You do know I have to repeat this line for new viewers, Gwen. But fine, whatever, spoil the moment, Chris said as he prepared to toss a marshmallow. Gwen blushed at that. In hindsight, it made sense. Trent. Lindsay. Owen. Gwen. Izuku. Lashana. Heather. Campers, this is the final marshmallow tonight, Chris said as both Beth and Ochako were nervous. Ochako, Chris said as Ochako takes the final marshmallow. Beth, the dock of shame awaits you, girl, along with Cody, Chris said. All of the campers knew about that. Dr. Juten told Chris as such. Beth looks at the campers. I'm so sorry, guys, Beth said as she cried. It's okay, Bella, just so you know I didn't vote for you and Carl is just as much to blame as you, Lindsay said as she hugged Beth. I know, and thanks, Lindsay, Beth said as she walked down the dock of shame just in time to see Cody get medevaced. With Platinum Gopher in hand, she leaves the island with a smile on her face and 10 grand in cash and 5 imported chocolates. With Izuku. Okay, the whole Beth thing sucked, but at the very least we should be safer, Izuku said as he burns the sage fumigage gave him. He breathes it in as both he and the rest of the Gophers felt lighter and ready for the next challenge. Special prison for villain criminals Tartarus. It's one of the greatest prisons of the world, housing the most dangerous villains. Toshinori was going to visit All for One to check on the old villain. Though the last time he had visited him, it was after Phobia Factor after Inko and Eri left for Canada and when he told him about the fact the pinky toe test was discredited. The result was awkward. Flashback. Wait, what, the pinky toe test was discredited for over half-century? All for One shouted. Toshinori and his detective friend Naosama looked at each other, not knowing what to do. So let me get this straight, you had no idea about this. I honestly thought you had a hand at this, Toshinori said. Are you kidding me? All Might, had I known about this, I would have all over that, All for One shouted. Naosama used his quirk on a foe and his eyes widened. Sorry Toshinori, but a foe is telling the truth. He had no idea of what happened, Naosama said. Well, I'm surprised, but that leaves us with the question, who did this? Toshinori said. The 3 men stayed silent, wondering how such a discovery went unnoticed. End flashback. Toshinori shakes his head as he approached the front desk of Tartarus, where he saw that the guards were at a frenzy. Oh, is something going on? Toshinori asked. Oh, All Might, we were just getting ready to see the next episode of Total Drama Island, an officer said. Really, and you're letting the prisoners watch the show? Toshinori asked. The officer shrugs. It's not like they have anything better to do, the officer said. Fair enough, Toshinori said with a shrug. A bit later. The prisoners, save for a foe, he has his own private TV in his room, are all in the rec room where they would see the latest episode of Total Drama Island. 2 villains, in particular, are interested in this. Kaina Tsutsumi and Chizome Akaguro. Chizome is an intimidating, muscular man who walks with a distinct hunch and has a flat, somewhat triangular face without a nose, which he removed it himself, and an extraordinarily long tongue, tainted with numerous small papillae. He has rather long, black hair, which he wears in a messy fashion. It would drape over his face if not for his headband and mask, and small white eyes with tiny irises. Kaina is a tall woman with a curvy body. She has long, dark blue hair with numerous scattered pink streaks on it, which is usually tied up in a ponytail with 2 shoulder-length full strands of hair left to frame her face. Her eyes are purple with a mauve shade framed by dark blue-colored angled eyebrows. Both of them are wearing neon orange jumpsuits. TCH, I can't believe we have to watch this crap, Chizome said. Kaina rolled her eyes. It's not like we have anything better to do, Stain, Kaina said. Chizome sighed as he agreed with Kaina as the episode started. With a foe. Let's see how this will work, a foe said as the episode started. Last time on Total Drama Island, both teams set out on a canoe trip to the deadly Bony Island. Cody was going to enact a jealous-type plan to be Gwen, but decided to be the ultimate bro and helped her be with the guy she wanted to be, Trent. What a bro, my dude, what a bro. Our cinnamon rolls decide to take it slow. Come on, you two, just confess already, preferably after the split, Chris said as scenes of said things were shown. People still ship real people with other real people? A foe asked himself. Oh, who was he kidding? Of course they did. With Chizome and Kaina. GGGRRRR, if it wasn't for the fact that she's using the money to help her parents, I would have called her, Chizome said. Yeah, and be on the very tippy top of Dekuru's shit list, Kaina said as she remembered Phobia Factor that one made her cry. Dekuru, Chizome said. Come on, Stain, it was last week's episode, he's thinking about changing his hero name, a prisoner said. Chizome growled a bit but stayed quiet. Ah, Chris, the episode? Daniel asked. Thanks for the reminder, Daniel-san, Kaina said. At least he's diligent, Chizome said. Wha? Oh, right, the episode, Any who after running away from giant man-eating beavers and roided up geese, there were winners, and there were losers, also known as the gophers. The last marshmallow was set to either go to Lindsay or Izzy, but the RCMP forced Izzy to hightail it out of there, Chris said as it shows the scene of Izzy running away from the RCMP with a foe. Oh God, why did that goose get a quirk? They were evil enough as they were, and they reproduced. I'm evil, but even I have standards, a foe said as he quaked in fear. Even the symbol of evil knows that Canadian geese are the true embodiment of evil. With Chisholm and Kaina. I never thought it was possible they made Canadian geese even more terrifying, Kaina said. Oh, they can that bad? A random prisoner said. Those fuckers pick fights with eagles, Chisholm said. And they get fucked, the same prisoner said. And they win, Chisholm said as the prisoner meeped. Chris laughed a bit before talking again. Man, I knew the girl was nuts, but I didn't know she was totally insane. However, one gopher may insert has done something even more insane, which was bring a creepy tiki, voodoo thingy from Bony Island. Will Beth regret bringing that souvenir? Can my teeth possibly get any white? And finally, when will Izuku and Ochako get together? Find out here on, Chris said as he says the final part of the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. Well, hopefully this episode will fun, Kaina said. Here's hoping that Izuku can kick out that bitch Beth from the island, a prisoner said. I hope so too, Kaina said as Chisholm nods. It was morning when the sun began to rise and birds were about to sing and Bunny was hopping around until it was interrupted by Chris, who was flying around in a helicopter while wearing a Rebel Alliance uniform. Where did Chris get that uniform? Kaina said. I think it's far more important to ask where he got his flying license, Chisholm asked. Duncan woke up fearing for his life, believing the police were coming after him. DJ and Jeff, on the other hand, just looked at him as he hid under the bed. Lashana, on the other hand, hit her head on the bunk. Ooh, okay, that dude is really starting to get on my last nerves, Lashana said as she gets out of bed. Heather gets up as well as Ochako leaves for the bathroom. Whatever, he just loves ruining our mornings. Beth, Lindsay, go warm up the shower for me and don't forget, Heather said. I know, not too hot this time, Beth said as she gets up. Why are they still serving that bitch? An officer shouted. Yeah, Heather should go die or something, a prisoner said. I'm not surprised, I'm pretty sure that she'll be an old lady with 5 dozen cats, Kaina said. That few, I was going to go with 10 dozen cats, Chisholm said, with a foe. Me, I see it falling apart after the split, a foe said with a shrug. A while later, we soon see the girls save Ochako standing in line for the bathrooms. Ugh, why didn't we follow Ochako's lead? Bridget said as she held it in. I know, right? Katie said. How long is Queenie going to be in there? I got urgent business here, Lashana asked. Beth said it would still be a while as Lindsay nodded. F that I'm going lumberjack style, Gwen said as she left. With Chisholm and Kaina. Oh, poor girl, also fuck Heather, a female prisoner said. Yeah, fuck her, another female prisoner said. I wonder how Midoriya would do today, Chisholm said. Soon the announcement system sounded. I hope you're ready for the most challenging challenge yet, breakfast in 3 minutes at the campfire site. Heather soon called out saying she needed help lotion her back and that it was peeling. Beth sighed as she went in to help Heather. Ha, go what you deserve, bitch, a female officer said. Several female prisoners nodded in agreement. Kaina rolled her eyes as that though she silently agreed with them. Chisholm stayed silent. Campfire site. We find the campers with Chris with Inko and Ere by his side. Are you ready for today's Extreme Max Impact Challenge? Chris said. No, we're not, a prisoner said. We are ready, Owen said as Lashana shakes her head. What's the challenge, Mr. Chris? Ere asked. I'm curious as well, and why does it get me excited? Chisholm wondered. I'll tell them after they had breakfast, Chris said as he picked up a can of beans and tossed it at the campers. It was about to hit Gwen's face, but Trent caught it, earning a smile from the goth beauty. Chris explained that this was breakfast. Heather, however, frowned. No breakfast is crepes, croissants, and even chef's shitey burnt eggs and ham, Heather said. Beans, they're good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you. Owen said before he was hit in the head by a can of beans and falls down. Okay, how much you want to bet that his farts will screw him over? An officer asked. The prisoners mumbled at it was a sucker's bet. Really? Kinda said sarcastically. Even I know it was a sucker's bet, Chisholm said. The officer raised her hands to placate them. Owen, you all right? Izuku asked as Owen gives a thumbs up. Today's challenge is about survival. We're going hunting, Churs said as he shows a paintball gun. Now that's more like it, Duncan said excitedly at the prospect of using a gun. Harold points out the obvious as Chris shoots him. Bridget then asked if that meant that they weren't killing anything. Ha, take that, nerd. I hope Owen is okay. Meh, he'll live. I doubt it, unless you somehow get a clean headshot, Chisholm said. Even with a quirk like mine, it wouldn't happen, kinda said. Negatory Bridget, no blood, guts, or real guns will be shown here, Chris said. Is it because you killed that birdie last week? Erie innocently asked. Not gonna lie, it was. I had to make a new email for that, not to mention my social media blew up. Did you know PETA is still a thing? Chris said. All of the prisoners stayed silent at that remark. PETA is still alive. I thought Nezu destroyed them all, Chisholm said. Welp, they're dead, kinda said. With Tashinori. Oh boy, welp, here's hoping that Nezu gets them all this time, Tashinori said. With a foe. Oh boy, I think this won't end well. For PETA at least, a foe said with a grin. Chris, the challenge? Ochako asked. Oh right, this will be the first ever paintball deer hunt. I'll announce the teams when we get to the woods, so finish brekkie, Chris said as a loud burp was heard. The burp came from Owen, who was surrounded by cans of beans. Got any more? Owen asked. I think Mr. Owen had too much, right, Inko Ba? Erie asked as Inko nodded. With Chisholm and Kina. Welp, Owen screwed, Kina said. Oh yeah, Chisholm said. Woods. Upon reaching the woods, we see Chris with a gun rack filled with paintball guns and chest. All right, then I will now explain the breakdowns. The killer base hunters are Bridget, Duncan, Jeff, and Ezekiel. Locked and loaded with base blue paint, Chris said as he passes the guns to said members. Oh yes, Duncan said, excited that he is a hunter. The screaming gopher hunters who are using orange paint are Owen, Beth, Lindsay, Lashana, and Ochako, Chris said as he passes the guns to said people while Owen cheers. Looks like Duncan's excited, Kina said with a small smile. Of course, he would. Chris himself said that he was in juvie, Chisholm said. Sure, Kina said. All right, then the hunters will also get these stylish camo caps and wicked goggles, while the rest of you are deers, Chris said. What? Kina said. I'm a deer? Izuku asked. Yup, here are your antlers, red noses, and little white tails. Oh, and if you take them off, your team is toast, Chris said as he puts on said parts on Izuku. All of the prisoners began laughing at Izuku for his deer costume, except for Chisholm and Kina. Can I be a deer too? Erie said as she gives the puppy eyes. Chris thought about and dressed Erie up, and once he saw how cute she was. Okay, new rule, whichever team shoots Erie is disqualified and the other team wins, Chris said as Erie smiles. Both teams nodded as Chris gave the deers a 15-minute head start. Okay, she's adorable, and I will fuck up any pedo that any ideas, Kina said. How about Chisaki? Oh, don't worry, we'll kick his ass later, Kina said. With the killer base. The base deer are walking along the woods where Katie mentions on how they and the gophers have a head start. I don't know about y'all, but I'm out of here, DJ said as he prances to the deeper part of the woods. Cody simply said what was on their minds. What the F? Cody said. What he said? Chisholm said as he sees DJ prancing around like a deer. With the screaming gophers. We see the gophers walking along the woods as well. This may be the lamest thing I've ever done in my life, Gwen said as Trent nods. Well, I think we should stay together, Izuku said. Confessional booth. Beep. We see Cody in the confessional booth, while he is in a full body cast. I was so psyched to be a deer. I may be small, but I'm quick. I got a lot of practice from dodging spitballs in math class, Cody said. Beep. Chris, get Cody to a hospital already, Izuku said. Beep. What the fuck? Chizome said, dumbfounded at the sight of Cody. Agree on that, what the fuck, kinda said. How did he get hurt in the first place? Good question, my dude. With Toshinori. Oh, my god, Toshinori shouted, shocked at the sight of Cody. Gwen and Trent were leaving when the former of the two saw that Heather was sitting on a stump. Are you coming? Gwen asked. No, I'm gonna wait for Lindsay and Beth and make them protect me for the whole game, Heather said. Gwen was about to say when Izuku interrupted her. Gwen, let's leave, and besides it isn't against the rules anyway, Izuku said as he and the others leave Heather behind. I don't like Heather. She's obviously cheating, Toshinori said. With Chizome and Kaina. So F Heather. Segsway or Killway. The latter, dude, I know she's legal but still. Dumbasses, I hope her alliance falls into flames, Kaina said. Meanwhile, with the killer base hunters. The hunters of the killer base were excited to hunt down their fellow campers, except for one. Bridget. Jeff wanted to cheer her up and then remembers DJ's advice. He decides to speak to her not to cheer her up, but to hype her up for the challenge. Hey Bridge, I want to say good luck with the challenge, and I'll make sure to lead Heather towards you, Jeff said as Bridget's eyes went wide. Hold up, Heather is a deer? Oh, it is on, Bridget said as gave a wicked grin. Huh, color me, impressed party boy, Duncan said. Yeah, I knew she would jump to the chance of coating Heather in paint, Jeff said with a grin of his own. Nice, shame that Sit Girl got booted out. Would have loved to flirt with her, Duncan said. The Sit Girl? That entitled bitch, you can do so much better, Chizome said. How would you know that? Kinda said. Trust me, I know, Chizome said. At least Bridget loves the idea of shooting Heather and Jeff seems doing something right, kinda said. I think it's because of Cody and DJ that Jeff is doing better. Oh yeah, he was the one that pointed out the whole tent thing. With the Screaming Gopher hunters. The Screaming Gopher, on the other hand, was ready as well, though Ochako had to stop Owen from dousing himself with urine and remind him that the deer are other campers. Start your paintballs, game on, Chris said over the intercom as the hunters went into the woods. After some time has passed, both Beth and Lindsay found Heather. At first, Beth was confused, but Heather reminded them of the alliance they were in. Heather soon felt hungry. Lindsay finds me berries. Beth goes find me some chips that aren't barbecue flavored, all right, Heather ordered as both of them did so. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, Heather can be such a bossy bitch, and we should find the other contestants also who doesn't like BBQ flavored chips, Beth said as she complained about Heather. Beth then becomes nervous. Heather won't see this, right? Beth asked. Beep. With Toshinori. I agree with Beth, who doesn't love BBQ chips, they're delish, Toshinori said. I know BBQ chips are awesome. Everyone who was watching the episode saw Owen fart as he tried to hide from DJ only for him to fart. They also saw Beth managing to get past Chef and into the pantry. Soon it went back to Owen where he begins his chase to try and shoot DJ. Meanwhile, with Beth. Beth had managed to get a bag of chips out of the pantry and was about to leave, but saw Chef coming back. She manages to escape from the psycho chef. As she ran, she bumped into Izuku. Gah, oh, Izuku didn't see you there, Beth said. Oh, hey there, Beth. Are all right. Also, what's with the bag of chips? Izuku asked. Oh, right, Heather wanted chips, so I got her some, Beth said as something fell out of her pocket. Izuku noticed it as well. Hey Beth, where did you get this? Izuku asked as he had a bad feeling about it. Oh, from that creepy island last week, Beth said as she pockets the tiki and eats some chips. After Beth left, Izuku knew what was happening earlier in the challenge. Ochako had told him that she had a line of sight on Katie, but somehow Miss Lashana also said that she had a clean shot as well. It ricocheted into a yellow jacket nest and attacked the sister. God damn it, I need to tell the others, Izuku said as he ran off. Yup, she's done for. Serves her right. Come on, McLean is just as guilty since he didn't tell her about Bony Island, Chisholm said. Confessional booth. Beep. So I'm running for my life from some psycho chef when all of a sudden it hits me. I'm doing all of this for that bitch Heather. I don't even like her, Beth said as she crossed her arms. Damn it, Beth, you've doomed us all. I have no choice but to kick you out, Izuku said. I think Izuku and Eri look so cute in those deer costumes, Inko said as she looks at the photo she took. Beep. I will admit Eri and Izuku look adorable in those costumes, Kaina said as the other prisoners chucked. With Owen and DJ. DJ was running away from Owen as he gave chase. You're my burger now, DJ, Owen said as he chases down DJ. When DJ reached a creek, DJ jumped out of the way as Owen fired a few shots. Owen on the trail as he tried to jump and hits his balls with the rock. DJ jumped over. God damn, that fucking hurts, Owen said in a squeaky voice. The male prisoners, officers, Toshinori, and Chisholm covered their crotches. Meanwhile, with a foe. If that hurts, it's time like this where I wish I can move my arms, a foe said, cringing at the sight of Owen's injury. A foe also sees Izuku and Ochako discuss about Beth, and they decide to split up to tell the other campers. Oh well, at least her time in total drama is cut short, a foe said with a smile. With Beth. Beth was getting sick and tired of Heather bossing her around. She had risked her life to get Heather some chips, and Heather didn't want them because they were BBQ flavored. She then asked for some dill pickle flavored ones. Well, she had enough of Heather's bitching. No, Beth simply said as Heather looked at her. What did you say? Heather said as was getting mad. Cody, who was following Beth for some reason, decides to back away only for Beth to fire a single shot at him. But Cody dodged it and ran off with the bag of BBQ chips. After Beth said her piece and left, Duncan and Bridget shot Heather. A shame that Beth found her sack just before she'll get the boot. Yeah, at least she told off Heather. Nice shot, Duncan, Kaina said with a grin. Min not bad, Bridget, Chisholm said with a shrug. With Izuku. Izuku was at the docks looking for any members of his team to tell them about Beth and her tiki idol. As he was looking for his teammates, he hears a familiar scream. Izuku looked up and saw that Owen had fallen off the cliff, but thankfully landed in the safe zone. After rescuing Owen and dragging him to the shore, Izuku spoke to him. Owen, we need to talk, Izuku said. If it's about DJ yeeting me off the cliff, I ran out of ammo, Owen said. No, Owen, it's about Beth, Izuku said as he told Owen about what had happened. Dude, okay, you got my vote, Owen said. Hopefully Ochako can convince Heather, Izuku said. How strong is DJ? Kaina said. Apparently strong enough to throw him off a cliff, Chisholm said. At least he told him about Beth. I hope Ochako manages to convince Heather. She will, considering the bad luck Beth had brought. I'd be surprised if she didn't convince her, Kaina said. With Toshinori. A shame that Beth will be leaving. Also, DJ-san is quite strong even with his quirk suppressed, Toshinori said. With a foe. A foe was laughing at both Heather and Beth. The former was because of her getting her comeuppance. The latter was going to get kicked out. With Ochako. Ochako had told Heather about what Beth did, and to say Heather was pissed was an understatement. She took Lindsay's paintball gun and shot at random. That effing beach, Heather shouted as she kept firing. Then the killer base hunters appeared and opened fire. Heather then fired one more shot and a cry was heard. Itai, a small voice said. Ochako and the others recognized that sound and went pale. Okay, I'll admit I fucked up this time, Heather said, hoping that it wouldn't get any worse. But it did as the intercom sounded. Attention campers, the game is over. Please report to the medical tent, Chris said. Oh boy, I think I have a good idea of what happened, Kaina said as Chisholm nods. With Toshinori. Oh boy, I hope it doesn't stain Eri's dress, Toshinori said. Sometime later. We find Chris and the others at the medical tent as he looked at the campers while Izuku and Ochako stood side by side with Beth, preventing from running away. Tisk, 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 stealing from chef, eating chips in the woods, getting mauled by bears, and worst of all, getting poor Eri dirty with paint. Chris said as Eri walked up in front of campers with a pout on her face and her favorite dress stained in paint. Orange paint to be exact. Do you know what I see here? I see a very undisciplined group, I see a disgraceful mess, I see a massive waste of paint product, and I have to say, that was fucking awesome. Wicked TV guys. Chris said as he smiles. This made the campers smile a bit, but Eri still pouted. Don't worry Eri, I'll get your clothes dry cleaned. Anywho, as I stated before the challenge, anyone who hits Eri is disqualified, meaning by default the killer base wins, Chris said as the killer base cheered. Good TV my ass. At least Midoriya Shonen and Uraraka Shoujo aren't letting Beth escape. Toshinori said. With Chizome and Kaina. Okay, so the gophers are painted, Eri's dress is dirty, and Heather admits that she fucked up. Kaina said. Chizome nods as he hears Lashana's confessional about that. Alright then, now before I give the big prizes first, I need to give the platinums first off the gophers. I guess I can give it to Beth because she stole a bag of chips from Chef Hachette. Chris said as he gave the platinum gopher to Beth. Thanks, Chris, Beth said as she takes her trophy. As for the platinum base, that goes to Cody for obvious reasons, Chris said as the campers nodded. Chris, we need to take Cody to the hospital, Mi said. Alright, we will, but after we get a few confessions with the guy. Either way, the killer base will have a Hunter's Lodge shindig. Screaming gophers, I'll be seeing you guys tonight again, Chris said. The killer base cheered as the scream gophers slumped. Oh come on, even after all that, Beth still gets 10 grand and 5 chocolate bars. I don't know, that chef guy looked pretty scary, I mean think about guys. You might be right, but still. I hope Cody is alright, Kaina said. At least they're calling the hospital for this, Chizome said. Then they started watching again. That night, campfire site. Everyone on the campfire site was angry. All of the rage was directed toward one person, Beth. Chris appears with a plate filled with 8 marshmallows. There are now only 8 marshmallows on this plate. When I call your name, come up and claim your marshmallow, Chris started to say until Gwen interrupted him. The camper who doesn't receive a marshmallow must immediately return to the dock of shame, catch the boat of losers and leave. Can't we just get this fucking shit over with? Gwen said. We don't need to hear this every single time, McLean, Kaina said. You do know I have to repeat this line for new viewers, Gwen. But fine, whatever, spoil the moment, Chris said as he prepared to toss a marshmallow. Gwen blushed at that. In hindsight, it made sense. As did Kaina. Okay, in hindsight, it made sense, Kaina said as some of the prisoners and officers chuckled. Trent, Lindsay, Owen, Gwen, Izuku, Lashana, Heather. Campers, this is the final marshmallow tonight, Chris said as both Beth and Ochako were nervous. Come on, get on with already, Jesus. Ochako, Chris said as Ochako takes the final marshmallow. Beth, the dock of shame awaits you, girl, along with Cody, Chris said. All of the campers knew that Dr. Juten told Chris as such. Beth looks at the campers. I'm so sorry, guys, Beth said as she cried. It's okay, Bella, just so you know, I didn't vote for you and Carl is just as much to blame as you, Lindsay said as she hugged Beth. I know, and thanks, Lindsay, Beth said as she walked down the dock of shame just in time to see Cody get medevaced. With Platinum Gopher in hand, she leaves the island with a smile on her face and 10 grand in cash and 5 imported chocolates. The episode ends with no outro this time and people eliminated. So Cody and Beth are gone, at least the former is getting medical treatment, Chizome said. With Toshinori. Well, at least the episode ended in a somewhat mid-note. Hopefully it only gets better from here, Toshinori said. He also sees Izuku burning sage for some reason. With a foe. Oh ho, this is quite fun, I hope the next episode will be even better, a foe said with a smile on his face. Later that night with Kaina. Kaina is returned to her cell after watching the show. As she lies in her cot, she wonders about the outside world for a bit before she snaps back to reality, reminding herself that she will never leave. She will be here until she dies. Or it would have been if the wall on her cell didn't blow up. Kaina is blown away and hits a wall. Oh, what the F? Kaina said as she sees the guys that blew up the wall. Ah, Miss Tsutsumi, I was wondering if you can tell us about Project Paragon. The man said. Well then, who do you work for? Kaina asked. The man shows Kaina his armband, which was colored light blue, and the letters UN. Kaina's eyes widen as she gets up. Well, then shall we leave? Kaina said as the man and the soldiers nod. As you wish, Miss Tsutsumi, the man said. Call me Lady Nagant, Kaina said as the group leaves. It wouldn't be until the next day that Tartarus would notice Lady Nagant missing. This also marks the second step towards a new age, the age of reform. We see Chris once again at the dock of shame. Last time on Total Drama Island, our competitors became hunters and the hunted. Owen's game was way off. And when he finally caught wind of his prey, he totally blew it. Beth told Izuku about her find and both he and almost GF were pissed. They told the other gophers about what she did, and when took Lindsay's paintball gun to blow off some steam, it costed them the game and to the bonfire. Chris said as scenes of the last episode were shown. You still have to dry clean my clothes, Chris, Eri shouted. Oh yeah, anyway, with that said, Beth got the boot, as did Cody, who was mauled by a bear. The gophers are still the underdogs, Chris said as we see Beth leaving and Cody getting medevaced. Can they bounce back, or is their goose finally cooked? Find out tonight on. Chris said as he begins to say the last part of the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. The sun was shining at Camp Wawanakwa, and the boys of the killer base were sleeping until Duncan decides to wake up and goes on the floor to do push-ups. He keeps doing this until he started to see and smelled something bad. That something was Harold's shit-stained underwear. After seeing it, Duncan falls on his ass, causing the killer base boys to wake up and laugh at him. Not cool, Harold, not cool, Duncan said. Those aren't mine, Harold said, denying that the underwear is his. Oh right, you always leave your shit stains lying around, Duncan said. Harold tries and fails to deny it. Yeah, you are, dude, Jeff said with his arms crossed. You have absolutely no proof, Harold said. Brew, no one else wears that kind, dude, Jeff said. The other base boys were wearing boxers. And your mom sewed your name on the label, DJ said, pointing out that Harold's name is sewed on the underwear. Whatever, I'm going for a shower, Harold said as he grabs his towel and leaves for the shower. Don't forget to wipe the skid marker, Duncan taunted. After Harold left, Duncan smiled. I think Harold needs to be taught a lesson, boys. Who's with me? Duncan said with a grin on his face. Hell yeah, I'm in, Ezekiel said. Oh, I kind of forgot that you were here, but thanks, Duncan said. Of course, I mean, for fuck's sakes, that's just nasty, DJ said. As leader of the killer base, you have my direct order to prank the hell out of him, Jeff ordered. With that, the four of them high-fived, vowing revenge on Harold. At the beach, we find Chris along with the other campers. All right then, today's challenge will test your minds, your teamwork, and your skills in the kitchen. You'll be cooking a 3-course meal for myself, Chef, and Eri, for tasting, Chris said. Cook well, everyone, Eri said with a smile on her face and a chef's hat on her head. She looked adorable. The winners will get a 5-star meal, while the losers will have to wash the dishes of the winners, Chris said with grin. The killer base cheered, and the screaming gophers smiles, knowing that their luck would turn. Each leader will be the head chef and pick a theme of the meal and to oversee cooking. To cook, you need ingredients. Every morning a truck brings us food. Today's task starts there, Chris said as a truck backs up from the river, and the person driving it was a dolphin wearing a suit with a tie and a police officer hat. Confessional booth. Beep. You know, if this was done during the pre-quirk era, this would be even more amazing, Izuku said with a shrug. In the booth was the dolphin himself. Meh, he's not wrong, the dolphin said as he shrooged. Beep. Izuku and Jeff open the back of the truck and see a whole bunch of high-quality food. Upon seeing food, Jeff already had an idea. Base, we could totally do a killer Italian theme, Jeff said. All right then, let's get grabbing, Katie said as they began grabbing food. Heather was about to call head chef before remembering that Chris said the leaders get it, meaning Izuku was in charge. The Screaming Gophers looks at the ingredients and realize that they could do a Japanese-style meal. Yes, we can do that. Katsudon, matcha, various skewer foods as appetizers. Alright guys, we have our theme, let's get cooking. Ochako, I need you to do one thing before cooking, Izuku said. What is it, Izuku? Ochako asked. My mother's katsudon recipe, Izuku said. Ochako nods as she goes to Inko. With the killer base. The killer base were carrying the ingredients as Jeff was smiling. Okay then, there's 8 of us and 3 courses, Jeff said. We could make an extra course or maybe something for ourselves, Bridget suggested. Awesome. Alright then, let's partner up, Jeff said. Cool, I know how to make pasta sauce, DJ said. I know how to boil pasta, Bridget said. Ezekiel and I can make the antipasto. I'm like a black belt at cutting the cheese, Harold said as the other laughed at him. Harold realized what he said and facepalmed. Okay, I walked right into that one, Harold said. Duncan and I do the dessert, Jeff said as Duncan nods. So Eva and I can do the 4th dish, Katie said. All right then, Eva said as she goes with Katie. As they got ready, Harold had to ask, Hey Ezekiel, aren't you going to say something stupid? Harold said. Dude, even I know that the majority of chefs are dudes, Ezekiel said. How in 9 fucks does he know that yet he said such stupid crap, Harold thought. Harold thought about 4 before remembering. Oh right, Ochako. Duh, Harold said as he and Ezekiel said. With the Screaming Gophers. Okay then, pork, bread crumbs, matcha mix, fish, chicken. Okay, I think we have enough, Izuku said as Ochako rushed back in. I got the recipe, Izuku. So how do we do this? Ochako asked. Okay then, first Ochako and Gwen, you two will make the katsudon, Izuku said. Yes, Ochako said. Cool, I guess, Gwen said. All right then, Heather, Lashana, you two will do the sushi, Izuku said. Fine, leader, Heather said. I'll put my hate aside so that we can win, Lashana said. Trent and I will make the matcha, Izuku said. What will O and I will do? Lindsay asked. Oh, that's simple, you two will go to the corner and look pretty, Izuku said. Okay, Izumu, Lindsay as she went into the corner. Wouldn't it be better if I'm a taste tester? Owen asked. The Screaming Gophers just gave Owen a flat look. Yeah, I'm just going to stand over there, Owen said as he stood with Lindsay. With that out of the way, the teams began cooking. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, I'll admit that illegal hero wannabe has the right idea. Owen would have eaten all of the food before we could serve it to Chris, Heather said as she shivered. Heather looked around. The F, is it just me, or did I just get a feeling of deja vu? Heather said. Beep. Meanwhile, at the killer base cabin. While everyone was cooking, someone is going into the boys' side of the killer base. Someone was stealing Harold's underwear. That someone was Jeff. Soon he rushes back to the kitchen and gives DJ the signal. Then DJ spills a pot of water on Harold. Hey, smooth moves Dorcahontas, Harold said. Oh bummer, you better go change, dude, Jeff said. As Harold leaves, DJ and Jeff chuckled while Bridget gives the two of them an unamused look. With the Screaming Gophers. The Scream Gophers are doing a good job. Ochako followed the recipe of the katsudon while Gwen helped. Heather and Luciana are making the sushi with minimal conflict. Izuku and Trent were making the matcha for Chris and a little bit for Ochako. All in all, they were doing a good job. Hey Izuku, should we do multiple flavors for the matcha? Trent asked. Yeah, we should. Hey Owen, can you get some oranges? Izuku asked as Owen nods. Owen leave and the group got back to work. With Harold. Harold was at the cabin looking for a fresh pair of underwear, but he not had luck finding a pair. Shirt, aha. Looks like it's your time to shine, Harold said as he pulls out a red Speedo. With Owen. Owen was getting oranges from the truck until he tripped and disturbed a hornet's nest, causing him to run away. Meanwhile, with the killer base. Jeff was checking the water while DJ spoke with Bridget. I think he digs you, DJ said. Maybe. He is kind of cute, Bridget said. Soon DJ asked Jeff to help Bridget, which got the both of them talking, and since the whole pitching the tent thing he learned to watch his word, thus he gained some brownie points with Bridget. So far so good in Jeff's book. Screaming Gophers. The Gophers were doing well with their foods. Trent and Izuku were making matcha when Owen came in with the oranges and covered in stings. "It's okay everyone. I'm back." Trent heads up, Owen said as he throws the box of oranges at Trent, knocking him out. Heather and Gwen glare at as Owen chuckled. "Corner?" Owen asked. "Gee, you think," Gwen said as she took Trent to the infirmary. Heather points at the corner. Confessional booth. Beep. Things are going perfectly, except for Owen's hornet stings and Trent's concussion, which means he's out of today's challenge. But still this challenge is totally ours, Heather said as she facepalms. Beep. With the killer base. Jeff and Duncan were working on the desert when they heard Katie scream. The other bases turned to see Harold in his shirt and Speedo. "Okay, who took all my shorts?" Harold said as Jeff and DJ snicker. Chris decides to check up on the killer base and sees Harold's Speedo. He cringes at the sight of it. 3 hours and counting, guys, Chris said. "Hey, Mr. Chris, what's wrong?" Erie said as she gets an eyeful of Harold's Speedo. I saw worse," Erie said as she simply walks away. After Erie leaves, the killer base looked at one another until Harold spoke. "So who's going to tell Izuku?" "Also not it," Harold said. Several not-its later, and it was decided that Ezekiel would tell him. "God damn it," Ezekiel said. With the screaming Gophers. Lashana was cutting the sushi roll when Heather stopped her. "Those slices are totally uneven," Heather said. "Oh, they're fine to me," Lashana said. "Whatever, if your F-up causes us to lose, I'll be voting you out," Heather said. "Oh, I like to see you try beach," Lashana said. The two of them glared at one another before they smelled something delicious. "Damn, that smells good," Lashana said. "Agree it smells porky," Heather said. "Okay then, the katsudon is done," Ochako said with a smile on her face. "Huh, that explains the pork smell," Heather said. "Yeah, and I think Izuku is drooling," Lashana said as she points at Izuku. Heather turns to see a drooling Izuku being held back by Owen. "Damn, that smells good. Your mom is awesome," Owen said as Izuku nods. "Actually, I think it smells better than mom's katsudon," Izuku thought. With the judges. Chris, Chef, Iri and Inko are waiting for the food as began to smell the katsudon. "Oh man, that smells good," Chris said. "Ha, not bad," Chef said with a smirk. "Yummy, I want to eat now," Iri said, almost drooling at the smell. Inko on the other smelled it carefully. Sage, thyme, rosemary and a pinch of garlic. She changed the recipe. Inko said with a smile of her own. She knew that Izuku had picked a winner in Ochako. With the killer base. Harold was chopping sausages in his Speedo when Jeff spoke. "Dude, you gotta put on some clothes, man. It unsanitary to cook something that small," Jeff said. "Yeah man, put some pants on," Ezekiel said. Harold, having enough and knowing that it was cause of the other boys, shouted. "So give me back my pants," Harold shouted. Duncan walked up to him and with a smile said, "Harold's right, guys. If you go to the cabin, you'll find a pair of clean underwear and shorts waiting," Duncan said. With that, Harold leaves, and once gone the boys began laughing at him as Duncan holed up a bottle of hot sauce. Back at the killer base cabin. Harold goes into the cabin and sees the shorts and underwear. Harold takes off his Speedo and puts on the underwear. As soon as he puts them on, he felt a burning sensation. "Oh, sweet mother of F, my biscuits are burning," Harold shouted as he runs out of the cabin and into the lake. Harold does sighs in relief, but knows that it was the other boys that did this. "Fucking idiots," Harold said. With the screaming Gophers. "Okay girl, I got to know how you made fried pork and rice smell so good," Lashana said. "Oh, that was simple. The recipe was made by Izuku's mother while I made some slight changes," Ochako said. "If this doesn't get Izumi to be your boyfriend, I don't know what will," Lindsay of all people said. Confessional booth. Beep. "Is it weird that I agree with the blonde bimbo with the shutdown intelligence quirk?" Heather said. Nope, I'm just as surprised as you are, Chris said. Beep. With the killer base. Harold came in with his pajamas and Duncan said as much. This is all I've got left, so if you motherfucking sickos want to see me naked, hit me with your best shot, Harold said. Well, stop leaving your shit rags all over the cabin and we'll back off, Duncan said as both DJ and Ezekiel nodded with him. Harold once again denies it. Well, I tried, Duncan said, knowing that Harold wasted another shot of telling the truth. Hey guys, Eva and Katie made us some sandwiches to chow down while we work, Jeff said as Harold takes the first sandwich. I'm seriously starving, Harold said as he takes a bite. Katie and Eva did a low five and gave knowing grins. Must resist making sexist comment, fear of Ochako rising, Ezekiel thought. This tastes like sweat and lotion. It's probably the worst sandwich ever, Harold said as he pulls a pair of his underwear out of said sandwich. He drops the sandwich and underwear in disgust as the other bases laugh at him. We'll return all of your shorts and panties when you admit your guilt, dude, Jeff said. Soon the 3 hours are up and both teams are about to give their plates to Chris, Chef and Eri. We'll be ready with your meals soon, sirs and madam, Izuku said as he bows. Eri chuckled at Izuku's acting. Jeff, on the other hand, was lighting some candles. Back in a sec with your dudes and dudette, I mean sirs and madam, Jeff said. All right then, first up the appetizers, which consists of antipasto and some sushi rolls, Chris said as the teams gives the judges their meals. May I had better antipasto and the sushi isn't cut evenly, Chef said as Heather glared at Lashana. Yummy, this antipasto stuff tastes real good and the sushi is good as well, Eri said. Well then, the antipasto pasted the testo. Pass the pasta, please, Chris said. This quite good. The pasta is a bit undercooked, but the sauce and meatballs may have saved it, Chef said, making DJ smile. So good, Eri happily said as she ate. On a scale of 1 to 10, 15. How will the Gophers respond, Chris said. With these, Ochako said as she passes the bowls of katsudon. Whoa, goddamn girl, this is awesome, Chef said. Holy hell, didn't see that one coming. Also 17 points, Chris said. Can you and Izuku be my parents? Eri innocently asked due to loving the katsudon meal. This caused the green tea couple to blush and Inko to grin. Then came the desserts. First was the desserts from the base. Meh, Chef said after trying it. Not good but not bad, Eri said, frowning a bit. A6. The base have 21 points, the Gophers just need 5 more points to pass them, Chris said. The Gophers soon presented the plates of mochi to the judges. It's been a while since I had mochi and it isn't bad, Chef said. Yummy yum yum, I like the apple and orange ones, Eri said with a smile. Owen smiled as he sees the little one smile. It made the stings worth it. Well, I have to say 8 points. The screaming Gophers win. The Gopher cheered as Chris gave out the platinum Gopher and base to Ochako and Ezekiel respectively. Soon the Gophers feasted on a 5-star meal while the base had to wash the plates. At least they didn't have to eliminate someone. On the next morning, Harold woke up to the laughter of the girls of both cabins. Then he looked down to see that he was naked. He covered himself with a pillow. We then see the 4 base boys rowing on a canoe. So, learned your lesson yet? Duncan asked. Yes, for fuck's sake, yes, Harold shouted. Oh, we're gonna need more than that, man, Jeff said. I'll never leave my shit-stained underwear ever again, I fucking swear, Harold shouted. What the hell, I believe him. It's pleasure doing business with ya, Jeff said after tossing Harold his clothes back. Harold runs back to the base cabin completely embarrassed. With that, the 4 base boys laugh their asses off. Izuku notices the empty bunk on the dock. Who's gonna put this back? Izuku asked himself. We see Chris once again at the dock of shame about to make the intro. Last time on Total Drama Island, things really got cooking between the campers as the groups cooked their meals. Owen surprisingly didn't fuck it up and the Gophers finally win a challenge though no one was eliminated. The base missed out on a feast. Also, Eri apparently saw worse than Harold's speedo. Chris said as scenes of the past episode plays. Chris shudders at that. Whether if it was Eri's words or Harold's speedo, no one would know. Now then, how much trust do the teams have find out this week on? Chris said as he says the final part of the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. We see Chef serving Gwen her breakfast, which was a tan goop. Chef puts a straw on it. Today's breakfast is Italian-Japanese fusion casserole, Chef said with pride. Gwen raised an eyebrow. You mean the leftovers from the cooking challenge? Gwen said. Yeah, that's right, you got a problem with that, Chef shouted. Sir, no sir, Gwen said as she salutes. Chef does the same as Gwen sits down. Heather was plotting her next plan while Izuku and Ochako talked about stuff, mostly about things Dr. Lawson told Izuku to do. You sure about this, Acha-chan? Izuku asked. I'm sure, Deku-kun, Ochako said with a smile. Ugh, you two are too sweet, Heather said as she rolls her eyes. I hate the fact that I agree with Heather of all people, Gwen said. Hey, lay off, we're talking about what Dr. Lawson told us to do, Ochako said. Oh, you mean picking up non-hero related hobbies? Well, considering how pro-heroes are pretty much celebrities in Japan, that will be hard, Gwen said. Up until now, we have instruments and drawing, Ochako said. Oh yeah, the little twerp is good at drawing. Maybe you could do commissions or something, Heather said. I think I could that, and I've played the flute before, Izuku said with a smile. Harold, having heard the conversation, went back to his room and then came back. You, Izuku, you got a minute? I think I can help you with the instrument problem, Harold said. You heard us? Izuku asked as Harold gives Izuku an instrument case. I have like a dozen of these, so don't worry. Think of it as an apology for the speedo thing, Harold said. Thanks, I'll look at it tonight, Izuku said. With the killer base, DJ was feeding his bunny by giving him pre-chewed food. Jeff looked at him funny and said, Dude, what the hell, it's a bunny, not a baby bird. Also, I'm pretty sure that goop has meat in it, Jeff said. Oh hell. You okay, Bunny? DJ asked as Bunny puked on him. Duncan, on the other hand, was stealing a coffee mug with Chris. Chris was walking around the forest with sad music playing in the background. Hi, Chris here. Sometimes teams don't just get along, so the boss, producers, and I thought that the best to work the group friction would be to exploit it for laughs. This is gonna be awesome, Chris said with a smile as he rubs his hands. Dock of shame. We see Chris and the campers at the dock ready for the next challenge. Okay, so last week's challenge exposed some slight gopher issues and there might be something funky floating in the base pond, Chris said. Duncan chuckled at this. So this week's challenge is going to be centered around building trust, because all good things begin with a little bit of trust, Chris said. Confessional booth. Beep. You know, this would be the part where I rant about Trent leaving buried alive. But then I remember that Chris is a total asshole. He sent the mine after him as soon as I was buried, Gwen said. I don't there's any problem with the team, but some trust building would be a good idea, Izuku said. Beep. There will be 3 major challenges that will have to be completed by 2 or more members of your team, Chris said. I would say that's easy, but, Ochako said as Chris continued. Normally we like to have the campers choose their partners, but not this time. More fun for me, Chris said. There it is, Izuku said with an eye roll. At a nearby mountain. Okay, so for the first challenge, you'll be doing an extreme freehand rock climbing adventure, Chris said as he explained the challenge. Oh boy, Izuku said as he looks up the mountain. DJ and Duncan will play for the base, Chris said. DJ and Duncan high-fived. Heather and Gwen for the gophers, Chris said as Heather glares and Gwen groans. Heather, Gwen don't lose, Izuku said as the both of them nod. Here's your belay and harness, Chris said as he tosses the items to the campers. Gwen caught them, but Heather snatched them away. Hey, what's your damage? Gwen said. If you think I'm letting you hold me up, then you're nuts, Heather said. You won't be holding her up exactly. One camper pulls the slack through the belay as the partner climbs. If the climber falls, the belay will stop them from crashing. The catch, both the side and the base of the mountain are rigged with a few minor distractions, Chris said. The illegal heroes wondered what those distractions are. Rusty nails, slippery oil slicks, mild explosives, and a few other surprises, Chris said. Wicked, Harold said. More like illegal, Ochako said as she knows that the explosives weren't mild at all. The person on the belay must also harness their partner up. It's all about trust, people, and remember, never let go of the rope. Your partner's life depends on it, Chris said seriously. Excuse me, can we trade partners? I really don't feel like being dropped on my head today, Gwen said. Police, as much as I love your company, I'm not about to throw a challenge just to kill you, yet now spread them, Heather said. With the base, Duncan is placing the harness on DJ. Never tried this before, have you? DJ asked Duncan. Oh yeah, they teach you how to climb wall in prison all the time, Duncan said as Bunny came out of DJ's pocket. Sorry little buddy, you can't come up with me. You can trust Jeff, he's my buddy. Yo Jeff, hold Bunny while I'm on the rock, thanks G, DJ said as Bunny hops on Jeff's arms. Sure man, little furry dude, what's up? Jeff said. With the gophers, Heather had just finished hooking Gwen up. But then Gwen noticed the second rope. What's the second rope for? Gwen asked. It's a backup line, Heather said. Gwen wasn't buying it, and neither was Ochako for that matter. Izuku, when say so you cover your eyes, all right, Ochako said. Okay Chako-chan, Izuku said as he readies himself. Confessional booth. Beep. It's all her fault for messing with me. I've got a doctorate in revenge and humiliation, Heather said. I should have stopped her plans a while back, Izuku said. Beep. Back at the challenge. The challenge had begun and Gwen is making great progress. Until Chris blew up the mountain, which made Gwen fall, but Heather saved her. It's okay, I got you, Heather said. I promised surprises. Habanero pepper sauce, anyone? Chris said as he holds up a water gun filled with the same stuff. Chris fires said gun at the competing campers. Ugh, what the hell, Chris? Heather said as she rubs her eyes. Only to realize that she had let go of the rope, causing Gwen to fall. My calient, Chris said in Spanish as Daniel facepalms. Confessional booth. Beep. As some who can actually speak Spanish, I apologize for my boss, Daniel said. Beep. Back at the challenge. Chris fires another shot, this time at Duncan. However, like with the campfire challenge, Duncan came prepared. Duncan was wearing a pair of sunglasses. He smirked at Chris as he swallows the sauce. Ha, is that the best you can do? Duncan said. Is that the best we can do? Chris whispered, to which Daniel shrugged. Going back to the mountain, we see the campers climbing the mountain with Gwen getting the lead. Come on Gwen, you don't want to fall behind, Heather said. Izuku, look down now, Ochako said as Izuku looked down as Heather pulls the second line, ripping Gwen's shorts, revealing her purple panties with a pink skull. A piece of Gwen's shorts lands on DJ's face. Duncan was looking up along with Chris. Well, you don't see that every day, huh? Duncan said. No, you don't, my man, no, you don't, Chris said. DJ removes the teared-up shorts from his face, only to see Gwen's panty-clad ass, which causes him to fall and taking Duncan with him. This effing bites, Duncan said. Ugh, big time, DJ said. Gwen looks down on the mountain, thinking about killing Heather before making her choice. Ah, screw it, Gwen said as she climbed the mountain. Upon reaching the top, Chris announced that the Gophers won the first challenge. Gwen celebrated the victory for about 5 seconds once she remembers that she is in panties. Oh shit, hope Trent didn't see it, Gwen said as she mumbled that last part. Spoiler alert, he did see them. Camp Lodge. After a bit of time, the second challenge starts at the Camp Lodge, where we find Chris along with Bridget and Jeff along with Izuku and Ochako. Okay, round 2. The Extreme Cooking Challenge, Chris said as the campers seized the stunt double leave. After a brief pause, Chris went on to explain the challenge. It was a simple one. 1 person cooks and 1 person eats. Jeff volunteered to eat while Bridget cooks. Okay, Ochako, I'll eat and you'll cook, Izuku said as Ochako nods. Confessional booth. Beep. I trust Ochako and I know I can trust her with anything, Which reminds me I need to tell her about my quirk, Izuku said. If Izuku trusts me, then I can trust. I mean, it's just cooking. How bad can it be? Ochako said. Beep. Back at the camp lodge. Today you'll be preparing fugu sashimi, the traditional Japanese poisonous blowfish, Chris said as a gong sounded as the Japanese people participating the challenge shook in fear. Oh crap, the two heroes thought. The fugu blowfish has enough lethal toxins to kill 30 people, Chris said as Chef taps on the glass, puffing them up. Fishes meet your makers, Chef said as he tosses the fishes at the campers. Izuku and Ochako were nervous about this, as Chris says that you needed to cut around the poisonous organs and how said poison works. They knew that Chris was lying about there being no antidote. However, they needed to ask. Chris, is this, legal? Ochako said. Maybe. I mean, it's not like you need to get a license to handle fugu, Chris said nonchalantly. You do need a license, Chris, Izuku said. Chris raised an eyebrow. Confessional booth. Beep. What do you know? You do need a license to handle fugu. Who knew? Chris said with a shrug. Beep. After some time had passed, the campers finished their plates. Bridget made fugu rolls while Ochako made sashimi. Jeff tried it and loved it. Izuku also tried it as well, and thankfully it was a good piece. Chris declared that it was a tie, but that the Gophers were in the lead. Sometime later at the dock of shame, Izuku, Ochako, and Eri were relaxing by the docks when Eri noticed. Izu, isn't that DJ's bunny? Eri said, pointing at said bunny. Izuku looked and saw that it was about to be eaten by a snake. Izuku began the hero that he is rushed towards the snake and stopped it. Go on, get out of here, shoo, Izuku said as the snake went away. Jeff and Bridget came running in after seeing Izuku shoo off the snake. The both of them leave with Bunny. Then the three of them continued relaxing until it was time for the next challenge. Somewhere in the forest. The two teams, Eri and Chris, were at the forest where Chris was about to give the next details about the next challenge. Good news, the third round involves 3 more challenges. It's the 3 flying challenges. It begins with the blind William Tell, followed by the blind trapeze, and culminating in the treacherous blind toboggan. Chris said. So where's Bunny? I miss him, DJ said. Right here, dude, though Izuku had to save from a snake, Jeff said as he gives back Bunny. Whoa, I'll have to give him my thanks after this, DJ said. Chris placed an arrow on DJ's head. Okay, like the legendary marksman William Tell, you'll be knocking off arrows off your partner's head's crabapples, Chris said. Ezekiel was about to speak, but Chris interrupted him. Oh, and before someone points out the obvious, you'll be doing this blindfolded, so pick your poison crabapples or arrows, Chris said with a smirk. Ezekiel quiets down. That's what I thought, Chris said as he fires an apple at DJ only to hit him in the balls. Ooh, oh nuts. Well then, whoever knocks the arrow down first wins the challenge, Chris said. Chris, who's going? Eri asked. Oh right, forgot about that. Lashana and Owen for the Gophers, Ezekiel and Katie for the base, Chris said. Katie, are you a good shot? Ezekiel asked. Not really, no, Katie said. Just try and don't aim below the belt, okay, Ezekiel said. So it started, and the two campers began firing. Owen didn't feel a thing while Ezekiel felt pain, though Katie kept her promise of not hitting him below the belt. Soon, however, Lashana nails the arrow, getting the Gophers the victory, as well as sending Ezekiel to the infirmary. Later. And now the blind trapeze. To avoid serious injury, the trapeze has been set up over this pond, which is filled with jellyfish, Chris said. The campers gasped. Heather, Bridget, you two will be blindfolded on the platform while you wait for your partners, which are Lindsay and Harold, catch you or fail, and well, it will be a very painful swim, Chris said as they got ready. As the campers got ready, Eri was looking at Bunny, while Duncan looked at her and went off in another direction. Soon it started with Harold and Bridget. Harold swung on the trapeze. He called out Bridget to jump, but she was too sacred. Look, if we're going to win, you've got to trust me, Harold said. Okay, sorry, next time, Bridget said. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Jump, Harold said as Bridget jumps with Harold catching her. The Gophers were, and Lindsay did the count too early, so Heather received electroshock therapy via jellyfish, giving the killer base a point, though Gwen couldn't help but smile. Confessional booth. Beep. Asterisk sigh asterisk, sometimes the universe just gives you a freebie, Gwen said as she looks up and give a double thumbs up. Beep. Infirmary. We see Heather walking towards the infirmary with a jellyfish on her head. I can't believe I trusted that little effing stinging jellyfish, Heather said as the jellyfish electrocuted her. Ezekiel takes the time to wake, asks where he is. You're in the infirmary. Got anything for removing jellyfish? Heather asked as Chef nods. At Chef's confirmation, Heather faints and Ezekiel sees Duncan leading a rabbit with a carrot. Ezekiel thinks that Katie hit his head with one of those apples, and so he goes back to sleep. At the final challenge, the campers along with Chris, Inko, and Eri are at the foot of the mountain. And now the final leg of today's challenge, the blind toboggan race, Chris said. To say what now? Lashana said as Chris ignored her. Each will have a driver, a navigator, and a liar. The driver steers while the navigator shouts directions. Oh, the driver will be blindfolded, Chris said. Ah, Chris dude, what about the liars? Jeff said. Ah yes, Inko, Eri, you two will be the liars. Your task is a simple one, give them the wrong directions. All right, for the teams they will be Gwen, Lashana, and Eri for the Gophers, while for the base it will consist of Jeff, DJ, and Inko. First one down the mountain wins, Chris said. Once the teams are up the hill, we 6 competitors along with Chris and Chef were at the hill. Chris gave Inko and Eri some armor to protect them. Chef, on the other hand, was lubing up the sled for the challenge. All right, are the 2 teams ready? Chris said as both are ready in their sleds. Inko shook her head, but Chris ignored her. All right then, let's go, Chris said as both he and Chef pushed both sleds down the hill. As the sleds goes down the hill, Inko was terrified while Eri was having a blast. Okay, go left, Eri said. No, Lashana, go right, Gwen said, correcting her driver. Then the killer base zips on by. All right then, DJ, go right, Inko said. No, dude, left. I said left, Jeff said as they nearly miss a tree. Sorry, Jeff, Inko said as she felt an explosion. The hell was that, man? DJ shouted. We had a few explosives left over and I just hate to waste, Chris said as he used the detonator, causing even more explosions. This continued on until one explosion launched the base in the air. Inko, seeing that they might get killed, used her quirk to slow their descent, making sure that they got there first. As the killer base cheered, Duncan walked up to Eri and tapped her on the shoulder. Yes? Eri nervously asked. Here, this is for you, Duncan said as he gave the rabbit to Eri. Oh, thank you, Mr. Duncan. You're nice, Eri said with a smile. You're welcome, kiddo, Duncan said. Confessional booth. Beep. I'm not nice, okay? I only did it because Izuku told me about Eri and his fight against the Yakuza he had. He only managed to beat Kai with Eri by his side by going pseudo Super Saiyan, just to set the record straight, Duncan said. Beep. The base wins the toboggan race, Chris said as the base cheered. Chris had an annoyed look on his face. Is what I would have said if Inko didn't use her quirk. Remember, one of the major rules of TDI is no quirk use unless the challenge specifically asked for them, meaning the Screaming Gophers are the big winners, Chris said as the Gophers cheered harder. It ended with Gwen getting the Platinum Gopher and Duncan the Platinum Base. Now they needed to pick who was going home. Campfire ceremony. The killer base are at the campfire ceremony waiting for Chris to tell them who's going home this time. Who wants a treat? A tasty treat that represents exemption, security, peace of mind, Chris said before he was interrupted. Oh, just get on with it, man, Ezekiel said. And if you don't get a marshmallow, you have to walk the dock of shame and you can never come back ever, Chris said. Okay then, let's start, Chris said. Duncan, Bridget, DJ, Jeff, Eva, Harold, Ezekiel, and Katie, you two are the last ones and the final marshmallow goes to, Chris said as begins to choose. Katie, Chris said as he gives the final marshmallow to Katie. Ah man. Well, to be fair, I lasted a lot longer than I thought, Ezekiel said as he leaves. The rest of you are safe for now, Chris said as both he leaves. But as the rest of the campers were about to leave, Chris appeared. Oh right, Inko wants you guys at the lodge, Chris said. Camp Lodge. The killer base reached the lodge when the smell of fried pork reached their noses. Think of it as an apology for making you lose the challenge, Inko said as she served the base katsudon. Despite this defeat, the base felt like winners. We see Chris once again at the dock of shame about to make the intro. Last time on Total Drama Island, the teams were given 3 challenges that tested their trust in their teammates. The rock climbing challenge revealed more than just Heather's grudge against Gwen. Though both teams did okay at the cooking challenge, DJ trusted Jeff with his pet bunny, only Izuku to save his furry little ass. Meanwhile, some other campers dropped on their butts and Duncan shocked everyone with his softer side when he gave Eri a bunny of her own. Chris said as the events of the last episode played out. Chris couldn't help but smile at Eri's face. Stay tuned for the most dramatic bonfire ceremony yet on, Chris said as he does the last part of the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. We see Duncan and Jeff around the cabin. Duncan was carving a skull with his knife while Jeff was sitting around. That's when Harold comes out of the room with a s'more. But said s'more is filled with his underwear. Okay, who's the asshole who made s'mores out of my underwear? Harold said as he points at said s'more. Jeff and Duncan laugh at Harold, pretty much admitting to their guilt. Harold goes back to his room with s'more at hand. The pranksters laugh even harder. Sometimes he makes it too easy, Jeff said as Duncan nods. I hear you, man, Duncan said. Listen up, you little cockroaches. I want all campers to report at the dock of shame at the 9 hours. Chef said as everyone except Izuku and Ochako didn't know what that meant. That means now solders now, Chef shouted as the campers rushed towards the docks. Dock of shame. We find the campers lined up ready for whatever comes at them. They also find Chef wearing something an instructor from boot camp would wear. Eri was next to him wearing an officer's hat with the red cross on it, while her new pet bunny Deku is wearing a bunny-sized solder's helmet. Chef uses a megaphone to address the campers. Line up and stand at attention, Chef said. He frowns as he sees the sloppy line. You call this proper formation. Feet together, arms down, eyes forward, head up, Chef said as he corrects Jeff, Duncan, DJ, and Heather respectively. He also hits Harold while correcting him. Oh, this is going to be a fun day, Gwen sarcastically said. What did you say to me, Solder? Chef said. Nothing, Gwen said. And you'll continue to say nothing until I can tell you can say something, Chef said. Today's challenge will not be an easy one. In fact, I do not expect everyone to come out alive, Chef said. Chef hit Owen for laughing. Petty Officer Eri, you will them tell what to do, Chef said. Yes, Master Chief Chef. All of you are at boat camp and the Master Chief along with myself and Seaman Deku are to make you drop out until only one is left. Whoever is left wins immunity for their team, Eri said as she explained the challenge. Heather asks where Chris is at but Chef ignores her. Rule number 1, you will address me as Master Chief, Eri as Petty Officer and Deku as Seaman. Have you got that? Chef said. Yes, Master Chief, the campers said together. You will sleep when I tell you to sleep, and you will eat only when I tell you to eat. Is that clear? Chef said. Yes, Master Chief, Jeff said. Rule number 2. When you're all ready to give up, you are to go at the end of the dock and ring that bell, Chef said. Which brings me to rule number 3. I'll have to get one quitter before the end of the first day, and that day will not end until someone drops out. Now get your butts down to the beach, soldiers. Now, 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 Chef said as the campers ran in a panic towards the beach. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, whoever is the sick fuck that thought that this was a good idea to put Chef of all people in charge of this challenge, I have to say, I'm a bit impressed, Gwen said with a smirk on her face as she crosses her arms. Eri, you betrayed us, but at least she's having fun, Izuku said, knowing that Eri was having fun. Yeah, people love Eri wearing those hats, so my boss wrote her a contract, knowing that Inko wouldn't sign one made by me, Chris said as he shrugs. Momo, if you're watching this, can you make more hats for Eri and Deku to wear? Ochako said. Beep. At the beach? Both teams are at the beach, each team standing next to a canoe with their respective colors. Listen up, each team must hold the canoe over their heads, Chef said. If any of us catches your hand off of the canoes, you're eliminated. Did I say it right, Master Chief? Eri said. Indeed you did, Petty Officer Eri. Oh, and no one eats until someone drops out. Now canoes up, Chef said as both teams lifted their canoes up. PFFT, this isn't that hard, Owen said. Piece of cake, Jeff said with a grin. Eri chuckled a bit. Yo, Dudette, what's so funny? Jeff asked. You two summoned Mr. Murphy, Eri said. With wide eyes, Jeff and Owen looked at one another, knowing that they screwed up, and they summed it up as such in a single phrase. Ah, F, Jeff and Owen said at the same time. 3 hours later. It had been 3 hours since the challenge started, and the camper was sweating and getting hungry. Loshana's growling made it apparent. Come on, you sisses, it's only been 3 hours, Chef said. Yeah, Kai didn't feed me for longer than that, Eri said as she received shocked looks from everyone, even Chris. Confessional booth. Beep. Yeah, Kai didn't feed me for several hours whenever I tried to escape, but I'm doing much better now, Eri said as she eats another apple Pop-Tart. Beep. Ooh, I think they just missed lunch today, Chris said. Yeah, I guess they're not hungry, unless someone wants to quit now, Chef said as both he and Chris were sitting on the canoes. Eri and Deku, on the other hand, kept watch on the campers. At that precise moment, Owen's stomach began to growl. Don't even think about it, Owen, Gwen said as she glares at him. Oh, come on, it's only 3. Most people have to wait 10 hours before they can eat. Hell, sometime I skip meals so that my parents can eat, Ochako said. Izuku looked at his not-girlfriend in shock. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, I'll be blunt, yeah, I did skip meals in order for my parents to eat more. I've been seeing Hound Dog because I may have developed an eating disorder. I haven't told anyone until now. Thankfully, Dr. Lawson took over and told me what I was doing wasn't okay, that I deserved to eat and I shouldn't feel guilty about it, Ochako said. She starts to feel a lot better after saying that. Ochako, I will be serving you extra food from now on, all right, Chef said. Ochako, you can talk to me about anything, okay? Izuku said, worried for her. Beep. Duncan and Jeff were going to prank Harold, but decide not to due to Eri keeping an eye on them. I feel like something was supposed to happen, Harold said. Is there a problem down here? Chef shouted. No, Master Chief, sir, Harold said. Petty Officer Eri, keep an eye on him, Chef said. Yes, Master Chief. Let's go, Deku, Eri said. Later that night. Night had fallen, and the campers kept on going. Owen was snoring, having fallen asleep, Eri happily munching on a slice of apple pie and ice cream. 25 of us went into the jungle that night. Only 5 came back out, Chef said with a grim look on his face. Gwen yawns due to being tried and hungry. What war were you in anyway? Gwen asked. Did I ask you speak? 'Cause I don't remember you asking to speak. But if you must know, it was WWQ, Chef said. WWQ, World War Quirk or World War III. It was war of such magnitude that it reduced massive population from 8 billion people to 500 million. A war that had happened 200 years ago. Pardon me if I call bullshit on that, Master Chief, Duncan said as Chef chopped off his arm. Holy shit, dude, Jeff said. Oh, calm down, you pussies, Chef said as he rolled his eyes. Guys, Chef is right, I mean his arm stump isn't bleeding, Owen said. Everyone looked to see that Owen was right, the stump wasn't bleeding at all. In fact, the bone was growing back, followed by the nerves, blood vessels, muscles, and finally the skin. Chef wiggled his fingers to see if they worked. After he nods, he picks up the chopped up arm and throws it into the lake, where it was promptly devoured by the sharks. A regeneration quirk, Izuku said in awe of such a powerful healing quirk. In fact, the only other time he saw something like this was the Namu. Besides our Japanese friends, I assume you all took Heroic History Class 101, Chef said. You mean the high school course where you read pre-quirk comic books? Yeah, we did, Jeff said. Yeah, I made a project about one of the X-Men, specifically Cyclops, Harold said. I like the Punisher and Ghost Rider myself, Duncan said. Well, my quirk is like Wolverine's mutation, Chef said. Holy shit, no wonder you said you were in WWQ. Are you one of the members of the Wilhelm Raiders? Trent asked. I am. Why? Wait a minute, are you Caillou's grandchild? Chef asked. Yeah, I am, Trent said. Anyway, getting back at track, I can regenerate like Wolverine, but unlike him, I don't have bone claws, Chef said. That's an amazing quirk, Master Chief, Izuku said. I know. Oh, by the way, Lindsay gave up a few minutes ago, Chef said as the Gophers saw that Lindsay wasn't there and had just rung the bell in a panic. Huh, the dumb bitch must have ran off after Chef chopped off his arm, Heather said. Everyone nods at that. Soon the canoe that the Gophers were holding became too heavy and it fell on them, while the base simply tossed theirs. All right then, someone find Lindsay and head to the mess hall. Dinner is served. I'll go find Lindsay, but sweet fucking Marie, thank you, Owen said as he went to find the blonde. Main lodge. Everyone is at the main lodge waiting for their food. All right, maggots, open your ears. You've got 10 minutes to eat before night training begins, Chef said. Cue complaints from the campers. Until Gwen speaks. Excuse me, Master Chief, where's the food? Gwen asked as Chef gestures towards the trash cans. You're looking at it, Chef said as Irie sticks her tongue out in disgust. Owen opens up a can and sees the food. This, the leftover garbage from this morning's breakfast, Owen said, stating the obvious. Damn right, when you're at war you take what you can get, Chef said as Owen eats a bit of garbage. Well, I can see that you got this under control. I'm off to craft services coming, Chris said. Serve me up some of that, Chef said. Hey, wait for me. I want some too, Irie said as she follows them. 10 minutes later. After having dinner, the night training began, which consisted of dancing to the tune of a pre-quirk song called Thriller. Everyone was dancing quite well, even Irie was dancing to the tune with a smile on her face. Confessional booth. Beep. Glad to the younger generations are listening to some good music, Chef said with a smile. Irie is still doing the Thriller dance. Beep. But the fun ended when Duncan shut off the music. Ah, Duncan-san, what are you doing? Izuku asked. One of drops out, we're done for today, Duncan said as he crosses his arms and Irie pouts. We're done when I say we're done, Chef said. Now drop and us 200, Irie said. Duncan rolled his eyes and did it, but he did feel bad for making Irie sad. Anyone else got anything they want to say? Chef asked. Gwen was about to say something, but one look from Izuku told her to keep quiet. That's what I thought. Now back to the lodge for your next challenge. Petty Officer Irie, both you and Seaman Deku are to report to Commander Midoriya for bedtime, Chef said as Irie saluted and cutely yawns. Okay, that adorable, Eva said. Main lodge. Everyone was sitting at table with sheets of paper and pencils in front of them. Master Chief Chef began to explain the next challenge. For your next challenge, you will complete a 300 words essay about how much you love me. Anyone who falls asleep or fails to complete the challenge will be eliminated, Chef said as everyone got started. 2 hours later. It had been 2 hours since the challenge had started, and it was now 3 a.m. Everyone had bags in their eyes. Owen was drooling. Harold was almost done until Chef took it away and Duncan was confidant. I hope Chef likes it, Izuku said. Me too, Izuku, me too, Ochako said. The first essay he read was Duncan's, where it was just a single sentence with the word very on repeat until the end. But it did complied with the requirements of 300 words. As Chef grumbled, he slips on a puddle of drool. Wipe up that drool, you little baby, Chef said. Chef hits the table, waking Trent up. You two slackers are out, the rest of you get to bed and report to the playing field at 05:00 hours, Chef said as Jeff was dragging Duncan away from Chef. Dude, not now, Jeff said. Well, out with dude, Duncan said. I got a plan to go to craft services, Jeff said. I'm listening, Duncan said. Here's the plan, dude, Jeff said with a grin. Playing field. The campers that are left are now in front of an obstacle course. Alright then, this one is simple. You will all run this course until you complete it in under a 1 minute. Am I making myself clear? Chef said. Crystal, Duncan said. Alright dude, just remember the plan, Jeff said as Duncan nods. Go maggots go, Chef shouted as they did the course. Izuku and Ochako dominated the course while everyone else did reasonably well until Harold swallowed too much mud. Chef picked up the nerd and told him to ring the bell. Thank you, Master Chief, Harold said as he rang the bell. Soon everyone went back to the course, and as they did, Duncan did something stupid, which caused Chef to go over the edge. Okay, I'll admit I fucked up big time, Duncan said. Yeah bro, you did, Jeff said as Izuku passed on by. 1 night solitary confinement in the boathouse, Chef said as the other campers gasped. Big deal, how scary can it be? Duncan asked. Boathouse. Turns out very scary. Duncan sits around looking at the scary stuff. I should have kept my mouth shut, Duncan said. After some time, Jeff walks in with a bowl of oatmeal that's probably not meant for humans. Dude, you ready? Jeff said. Of course, High Leader, Duncan said. Craft Services Tent. Duncan and Jeff snuck into the craft services tent. Once they reached the fridge, they began taking the good food while the hosts were distracted. Okay, dude, you sure? Duncan asked. Hell yeah. A little present from the killer base, Jeff said as he places a fish on a dessert plate. After that, they both made off like thieves. Back at the cabins, everyone, even Izuku and Ochako, were enjoying their ill-gotten gains. They feasted like kings, talking about how Chef was demented. But then the fun had to end. Attention remaining boot camp recruits, the next evolution of your training begins tomorrow morning, begins at 0700 hours. And if I catch the sucker who took my brownies and Aries apple crisps, your ass is mine, Chef said over the intercom. If I knew those apple crisps were for Erie. That morning, we find the remaining campers hanging upside down from a tree. What you are all experiencing is an ancient form of torture. By now, the blood has begun rushing to your head. The next stage is nausea, followed by dizziness and a flushed appearance as the blood begins to pool into your eyes. You may experience fainting spell, Chef said as Duncan falls down. Eerie smile as she walks up to Duncan and bops him in the head as he babbles. He's fine, Eerie said. After Duncan falls, one by one began to fall until all that was left was Katie and Ochako. You got this, Katie, Jeff cheered. Go for it, Chako-chan, Izuku cheered. However, it was not meant to be. I'm sorry, guys, Ochako said as she finally falls and pukes. As the base cheers Katie on, who is holding her platinum base, Chef speaks up. Katie, congratulations, Solider. I'd go to war with you anytime, Chef said as he salutes. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind since my dad is a Navy man himself, Katie said. You do that, Solder. You do that, Chef said as he sheds a tear. Campfire ceremony. I only have 7 marshmallows on my plate, and these marshmallows represent the campers that will continue to be campers, Chris said as groans. I think we should get on with Mr. Chris. Yeah, we should. Anyway, you all know the drill. You don't get a marshmallow, you go to the dock of shame and leave. Got it, Chris said as they all nod. After seeing that they got it, Chris continues. All right then, Chris said. Loshana, Ochako, Izuku, Lindsay, Heather, Gwen, Owen and Trent, you two are the bottom 2, and that leaves is, Chris said as he pauses for dramatic effect. Owen, Chris said as he give the last marshmallow to Owen. No, Gwen said as Trent stands up. Gwen, do it as your leader. I'm giving you the order, Izuku said, who is holding a platinum gopher. Gwen nods as she rushes towards Trent and kisses him, and he kisses back. The gophers cheer at the new ship that had sailed off. So real date after this? Trent asked. Hell yeah, Gwen said. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, we lost a team member, but I gained a boyfriend, which is awesome, Gwen said. Beep. Izuku and Ochako looked at one another as Gwen hugged Trent and nodded to one another. Soon I'll confess my love to him. The two of them thought as they went back towards their cabins. We see Chris once again at the dock of shame about to make the intro. Last time on Total Drama Island, The 15 surviving campers were put through Master Chief's and Petty Officer Erie's brutal boot camp. Duncan was the first to be sent to the brig by Major Hardass for disorderly conduct, shocker. But was a surprise was that it was all a ploy made by Jeff of all people to raid the craft services, and Trent had to say goodbye but not before confessing to the goth girl Gwen. Also we see Erie wearing many hats, and what's this, a pair of cinnamon rolls are about to confess. Just make sure you do after this episode, Chris said with a grin and rubbed his hands together. Scenes of the past episode are played. We also find Chris lounging on a chair eating marshmallows. This week the campers will be pushed to the extreme. Who will crack under the pressure? Find out tonight on, Chris said as he does the last part of the intro. Total Drama Island. Play intro. It was a normal morning at Camp Wawanakwa where everyone was sleeping and a bear was stealing marshmallows. But it soon ends when they hear the buzzing of an airplane. The campers get dressed and go outside where they see that it was Chris flying the damn plane. Incoming, Chris said as he makes the plane descends. Hit the effing deck, Jeff shouted. Gophers with me, Izuku shouted as he led the gophers to safety. The campers dodge the plane as it's about to land. Yes, I can't wait to get my pilot's license, Chris said in excitement. Chris soon lands the plane but not before destroying the outhouse that the bear was hiding in. Daniel just looked at his boss with a flat look on his face. This is way too early for this shit, Daniel said as he gets his coffee. Just flexing your muscles for today's extreme sports challenge, Chris said. There was some feedback from the megaphone that Chris used. Ugh, it's too early for this bullshit, Gwen said, still sad about Trent being eliminated. This week you'll participate in 3 challenges. First up, extreme sofa bed skydiving, Chris said. The campers went eyed at this. I'll let my extreme assistant Eri explain the challenge, Chris said as Eri and Deku came out, both of them wearing safety gear. Okay, the contestants will skydive off the plane and land on the sofa bed waiting below them, Eri said. Chef demonstrates how the challenge works, as Chef jumps off the landed plane only for the sofa bed to close on him. Of course you're doing it from 5,000 feet in the air and using these, Eri said as Chris tosses a pair of old parachutes. The campers gasp at the sight of the parachutes while Chris reads from a piece of paper. Our contestants are Ochako and DJ, Chris said before switching in the last second. Confessional booth. Beep. Okay, to be blunt, Dr. Lawson told me that the specific method of suicide that he was baited was taking a swan dive from the roof, Chris said as he pinches the bridge of his nose. The sessions with Dr. Lawson are doing well for me, and well after Harold gave me a spare bassoon I've been doing great, Izuku said with a smile. In fact, his smile became bigger. Okay, I'll confess to Ochako tomorrow, Izuku said. Beep. Okay then, I might as well do this. Plus ultra, Ochako said. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Bring it on, DJ nervously said. Not so fast, my dudes, because the second challenge of the day is extreme rodeo moose riding, Chris said as it shows the moose. Izuku and Ochako's eyebrow were raised, but soon Eri took over. Okay, the contestants will ride the Great Canadian Bucking Moose for 8 seconds or else they will land on a pile of stinky socks from the lost and found, Eri said with a smile. The campers save Lashana, on the other hand, didn't like the smell. Ha, well then here's a treat, it's a leader rematch. Izuku, you'll ride for the Gophers and Jeff for the base, Chris said. He doesn't look bucky to me. Hi, beautiful, Owen said as the moose punts him away. And the final challenge, extreme sea-doo water skiing. Eri, take it away, Chris said, leaving the little girl confused. After a few seconds, Chris spoke again. Oh right, that means it your turn again, sweetie, Chris said. Ooh. Right, the contestants will water ski a race course and grab as many flags as they can before crossing the finish line, while a member of the other team drives the ski-doo, Eri said as she shows the course, which was a giant mud puddle. How can we water ski without water? Heather said as she crosses her arms. It's really hard. Check it out, Chris said as he chuckles. Chef once again demonstrate how it works only to crash into a tree. Why didn't I listen to my mama and work at a daycare center? Chef said. Ha ha ha, awesome. Harold, you'll ski for the killer base, Chris said. Sweet, Harold said with a smile, knowing he can put his skills to the test. And Lindsay for the screaming gophers, Chris said. Cool, I can model my new bikini, Lindsay said as she strikes a pose. Now for the cool swag. Whoever scores best 2 out of 3 will win bragging rights for the rest of the night. Saves your asses from elimination, and the winning team gets a tricked-out multi-massage mobile shower, Chris said. Everyone looks upon the showers in awe as Chef plays the harp. Good God, can it be? Heather says in awe. Oh yes, Heather, it be, Chris confirms. A shower? How about something good? Owen asked, unimpressed by the prize. Heather got up to Owen's face with a look that had the fury of 1,000 suns. Listen her, you marshmallow-sucking fat ass. We are going to win that shower if it's the last thing we do, got it, Heather said as she shouted the last part. Owen choked on his marshmallow and Harold hits him on the back of his head, and the marshmallow that was stuck hit Heather's head. Chris gets back on the plane and tells the group that they have 20 minutes to eat and prepare for the challenge. Main lodge. Everyone had breakfast, and by everyone it was Owen. As he piled on the food, he noticed a card on top of the food. Huh, what's this? Owen said as he opens the card. The big lug reads it for a bit. For the girl with smoldering eyes, Owen said as he tosses the card behind him. It landed on Ochako's hair. Huh, what's this? Ochako said as she reads the card and recognizes the handwriting. Harold? It can't be for me, wait a minute, Ochako said as she reads the rest of the card. She was surprised by this, especially know that Harold of all people was the one who wrote it. Huh, I guess he didn't mean it in a malicious way, Ochako said as she remembers the first day. 20 minutes later. Ochako and DJ prepared themselves for the drop. Okay, ground teams, you can wheelie the sofa beds wherever they want in order to help their comrade with the landing, Chris said. Well then, sayonara Ochako, I can only imagine what Izuku's reaction to seeing you plummet to your death will be, Heather said as she glares at him. Let's go, DJ, Ochako said as she drags DJ to the plane. Just before Ochako enters the plane, Izuku hugs Ochako. Be safe, Ochako, Izuku said. I will, Izuku, Ochako said as she gives him a peck on the cheek. 5,000 miles above ground. Ochako and DJ were both terrified about the jump. Say if you two could fill these out, I'd appreciate it, Chris said as he showed them some forms. What the hell for? Ochako shouted. Yeah, we already signed insurance forms at the beginning of the show, DJ said, pointing out that they did just that. Chris was about to speak, but received a phone call from his boss. Good news, you don't have to sign them anymore. The boss man said he'll provide the props for my cannibal challenge. By the way, here comes the drop, Chris said as he tosses out the forms. The both of them looked down and gulped. Well shit, mama, papa, if you're seeing this, I love you, and Mina, stay the hell away from my machai. Izuku, I love ya, and Eri, I would be honored to be your mama, Ochako said as she jumps. As Ochako plummets towards the ground, she sees that Owen was sleeping on the sofa bed with a big red X on his back. But unfortunately, she misses her mark and breaks her arm. Oh, Ochako said. Girl, you alright? Lashana asked as Ochako glares at her. Think about what you just said, Lashana-chan, Ochako said. Okay, I'll admit that was stupid of me to ask, Lashana said with a sweat drop over her head. Ochako throws the card at her face. Lashana looks at the card and reads it. Had another one, this guy must love big girls, Lashana said. With DJ. Okay, you can do this, Devin Joseph. Go beyond plus ultra, DJ said as he jumps off the plane. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Okay, blue then red, blue then red, DJ said as he pulls the wires releasing the parachute. Yet despite this, he was panicking, but thankfully his teammates caught him. Okay, everything's still here, nothing broken, DJ said as he checks himself. Upon seeing that he is okay, he cheers, only for the sofa to swallow him whole. They leave whistling as they leave. Yo dudes, that's not funny. Let me out, DJ said. With the screaming gophers. As the screaming gophers took Gwen to the infirmary, they see Chris fly by. Gophers lose, base wins, 1-0, Chris said to the gophers. I blame Owen for this, Heather said. Sometime later. After the skydiving is done, everyone except those that are injured are waiting for the next challenge to begin. Okay, cowpokes, let's start. Rodeo Moose Challenge, Chris said. Jeff walked up to the penned-up moose. Rodeo ridden's kinda like surfin'. Once you catch the lip, you just flow with the mojo, Jeff said. The moose glared at him as Jeff got on the moose. However, as soon as he started, the moose bucked around and knocks Jeff to the pile of socks. Ooh, that stinks big time for the base. No, seriously? That is some rank stuff. Izuku, you're up, Chris said as Izuku got on the moose. Izuku got on the moose as well, but Lashana decides to provoke the moose. Hey chef, I hope you got a moose burger recipe handy, Lashana said as the moose gets pissed off. Its eyes turn red and flames erupted from its nose. Holy shit. Ah, chef said as the moose barged out of the pen and Izuku holding on for dear life. Ah, Lashana, you do know that when Ochako hears about this, she'll yeet you to the sun, Gwen said. Oh f, Lashana said, knowing that Gwen was right. But thankfully Izuku managed to hold for the time needed. Winner screaming gophers, Chris said as Izuku gets off the moose. I'm sorry about Lashana, Izuku said as he apologized to the moose. The moose nodded and glared at Lashana before leaving. Confessional booth. Beep. It was the moose that was in the confessional booth this time. The young green-haired man is a good human, the fat one not so much. The only reason I didn't harm her was because the green-haired one mate will do that for me, the moose said. Beep. Well, he's not wrong, Chris said. Lashana, if it wasn't for the bracelet, I'd yeet ya to the sun, Ochako said. Beep. Now everyone was at the mud pit as Chris drives by on his ATV. So we have a tie. Whoever wins the Extreme Sea Do Water Ski Challenge wins invincibility, Chris said. Then Lindsay comes out in her new bikini. I'm ready, Lindsay said as she shows off her new green bikini. Ochako saw this and growled for a bit. Oh, Otomo, I got you something as well, Lindsay said as she gave Ochako a box. Raising an eyebrow, she looked inside the box and blushed, closing the box. Heather saw this and was worried. We are so dead, unless I get to ride the wave jumper, Heather said as she shows that she has a set of keys. Oh ho, not so fast, Heather, I just need to give one more thing. Remember the first rule of Total Drama Island? Chris asked. Yeah, no quirks unless the challenge requires it, Owen said. Correct. As to why I'm saying this, well, it's very simple, you get to use your quirks, Chris said as he takes out big remote and presses 4 buttons. Snap, 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 snap. 4 snaps indicate that the 4 quirk surprising bracelets are off of Lindsay, Duncan, Heather, and Harold. Holy hell does. Oh hell yeah, my quirk is back, Harold said. Ha, what's it called, super nerd? Duncan said as he chuckles as he gives a mock punch. Only for Harold to grapple him and professional MMA hold. Duncan, feeling his arm about to break, taps out. The hell was that, nerd? Duncan said as he nurses his arm. My quirk, it's called Taskmaster, Harold said. Hold up, you mean like Marvel's Taskmaster? Owen asked. Yup, that's right, Harold said with a grin. Hey, whatever, Duncan said as his skin begins to glow. So what's your quirk, Duncan? Izuku asked. Plasmakinesis, Duncan said. Ah, so you can control the 4th state of matter in all of its forms, Lindsay of all people said. Yeah, I can, but how? Oh right, your quirk makes you smarter, Duncan said. Indeed, and it's a mutation class quirk, so I can't turn it off unless I have a bracelet, Lindsay said. Oh, what about your quirk, Heather? Duncan said. Just hold up, you villain, it takes. Oh, here it comes, Heather said as she grows bigger and her legs become as one. She also started to get black scales, though one patch of scales is red. Heather's eyes become slits, her hands become claws, her breasts became bigger, and she gains fangs. Oh yes, it's to be back to normal, Heather said with a grin. What is your quirk, Heather? Izuku said. Red-backed lamia. My mother quirk is lamia and my mama is Black Widow Spider, Heather said. Confessional booth. Beep. Ooh, I knew there was a reason I couldn't trust Heather at all. Not only is she a snake, but she's a Black Widow as well, what the fuck. No offense to anyone else that has those types of quirks, but Heather is just untrustworthy. Gwen said. Beep. Oh, just hurry the F up so I can wash my hair, Lashana said. A bit later. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Firearm78910 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.